Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I've got some time this morning. I figured I'd say hello to everybody and hope that everyone is doing quite well. It's the holiday season. It's Christmas is just days away. Figured I'd say hello to everyone. It's been a it's a busy season, isn't it? Getting everyone all set up and ready for the holidays, family, Christmases, times to harass and harangue our friends and neighbors about what they want and when are they available and how much are we putting in the eggnog this Christmas. Hope everyone's having a good time. Uh the older you get, the more you really appreciate the little things in life. In retrospect, my parents always did a very good job at separating you know Christmas from as the title implies, my birthday, and it's kind of funny. Before even we started doing the digital archipelago, it kind of all conveniently worked out that my friend and my co-host Gio and I share a birthday, and what a good time it must have been. But yeah, I may have bought the sniffer homie a bottle of Manischewitz this year. Well, at least you're being all at least you're being somewhat inclusive, I suppose. But Callan Gott says that he's way past the qualified levels of pre-drunk. Happy birthday from a loyal lurker. Well, it's the lurkers that really make the world go round. It's the lurkers, it's the reply guys, it's the people that retweet their posts to like their 150 followers. Those are the guys that go above and beyond in making content happen and tweets happen. But yeah, no, it's a great time and life is very good. But yes, hello everyone. I do have actually a little talk planned for y'all today. I was sort of working on this when I was listening to Mr. D and his lovely millennial appearance. It was rather frustrating because I wish it was a little longer because he was going off on some particularly interesting things with Mr. Woes. And one of those things, and I'll get my camera on in a second with you fine people, just let me get everything situated. They were talking about the subject over a culture obsessed with memory and sort of the media ecosystem that comes with that. And I was particularly interested in it because there's all those sorts of YouTube channels that talk about weird or obscure parts of history and technology. And one of them was going over the phonograph and some of the earliest recorded voices in human history that we can listen to today. Well, it turns out some of the earliest ones are from a French gentleman and his invention that came about 40 or 30 years prior to Edison's phonograph. And of course, the tin foil that you would need to record it on, and how the tech was very early. But anyways, we have the technology these days to record this information. And one of the first times that these voices were recorded was one of the gentleman's friends, who I think was a priest, had said that he had heard the voices from hell. And listening to D and Mr. Woes talk about this stuff, we live in an age where the past is everywhere present with us because we carry the past on our devices, our phones, our politics. We're inundated with a sense of ennui and nostalgia for places we can't go back to. But before I go any further on this rant, hey, Gio, how are you? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you too, my friend.
Yes. Doesn't it all work out that you and I are both, we share a birthday. Also, our friend Harvey Wallbanger has a birthday today. So happy birthday, Harvey. May God grant you many years.
I love how his name's Wallbanger.
I love it. It's fantastic.
That's what Michael Savage used to call Sean Hannity to like insult him, because he used to be a drywall guy when he was a teenager.
Oh, it's a cocktail. That's how I know it. It's the Harvey Wallbanger. Yeah, it's a highball.
Oh wow, nice.
Or it's in a highball glass, I should say. But it's a screwdriver variant.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
In Japan, they use ginseng for highballs. But anyways, I think it was about like the past can't escape. I remember I was for my book, I was reading this book by the art critic Boris Groys.
Yeah.
About it. He had that exact point about the internet never being like now there's sort of like a weird categorizing of all experience, and so past and memory operate differently because now we can like recall through digital medium. But of course, like his book was about the work of art and the digital age, and how um there's a very weird sort of like you can't really create a mythology, but now people, I guess, are intent on like bringing back a sort of mythos, even though we can bring up events and memories, and but it's never quite the same as like back in the day where you could read accounts, but there wasn't like a lot of visual media that captures events. Even like when you look back, I mean, the world looks strange. Like even the earliest video recording, like not even the earliest, but even like from a recent past, it's like there's like a weird disconnect.
Well, it's because they were also not enculturated with that technology. Like they can remember a time distinctly from when that stuff didn't exist. And I don't know. To me, it's always interesting because like you see all those old footage that people put out of like the streets of London or New York from like 1930 or 20 or even earlier, and those people have no idea.
Where they're just like fist fighting in the middle of London Square.
Sure, that too, right? Yeah. But I mean, like people just going about their business, and I mean, we take that for granted because we're so used to it. We're brought up with like the B-roll, right, for news and movies and television. Whereas for them, like that was a totally new thing, and some didn't even bother, didn't even care, and some were maybe they were right, and the camera just steals your soul every time you take a picture. Maybe we're completely soulless now because we're face fags, and
true,
we've totally ruined it for ourselves because we're exposing ourselves to the camera and looking right into it. But no, it was a really good discussion because I thought Mr. D tied it in very well to one of Stephen Sondheim's best songs, which is Someone in a Tree, where one of the best parts of that song is just like the day is incomplete without me, the someone in the tree, but also it's the ripple, not the wave. It's just a function of the day. Like history is an incredibly subjective thing.
Oh yeah.
And we had a conversation about that, you and I, and also on these Twitter spaces where we look at the world around us and we're accustomed to the fact that right now I can go open a new tab and I can get information on anything that I want, and people will assume that that's complete when it's not. And I mean, for historians prior to our computers or cameras or recording equipment, like this was all based on rumors, hearsay, but even then you had to take it on authority, and people were going to give it on authority. I mean, you read the Ecclesiastical History of England by St. Bede. The opening bits are just this profuse apology and praise and asking for forgiveness from God. Like, if I've gotten anything wrong or if there's anything incomplete that I have forgotten, have mercy on me. And you don't see that nowadays. We treat everything as if we have this smug authority to say that this is the complete story.
Right.
And I think that that's a pretty damning indictment of sort of this culture and this sort of worldview that we have where, oh, well, if I have footage of it, like that's it. That's the story. That's complete. And we don't, so much of our even recent history is still lost in the minutia of, conversations and backroom deals. I mean, take something as like innocuous and as well publicized as like the collapse of Enron, 28, 30 years ago. And it's just like, we still don't know the full story of that,
Oh yeah, no, it's like the full story in terms of where all the money went. I mean, the .com bubble was sort of like I remember like some schizo on.
I like this take.
Oh yeah, our myth making ability, instinct, will last memory tech. No, that's true. That's true.
So true. I mean, we call people we have character arcs for people. We have lore. Give me the old head lore. You
remember when Martin?
It's like every Night Owl's. It's like every Night Owl's space where they're talking about like old alt-right lore from like 7 years ago. It's like, give us the lore for us new troons. Come on.
There truly was, I think, an explosion of a sort of like right-wing Renaissance in those halcyon days that sort of like become lost over time. And I mean, for example, if Trump picks, well, let's talk about the Trump thing with Nikki Haley, Nimrata. But no, it's true. Like there is there's a weird sense that like you were saying, like events get rewritten, and I think that always happens where, for a time an event becomes something similar to a mythic importance that influences all aspects of daily life. I saw this like one this one leftoid account. It was talking about
pause this for dramatic effect. This one left.
What am I smoking? I told you guys the only brand I really smoke when I only smoke when I'm on stream. I use nicotine lozenges. I have a few smokes a week. I only smoke American Spirits Black.
Brother.
I tried other ones. My old man, I got him he likes the blue pack, but the American Spirits Black, man. But anyways, there is this there was this, Impossible Woman, or it was some kind of other leftoid talking about that one seismic event of the late 20th century that happened in Eastern Europe. Well, a lot of in Eastern Europe, but you know the one, right?
Yeah.
Has a lot of cost to it. And they were being ratioed into oblivion by like a lot of like other like, Palestinian flag in the bio, like brown leftists talking about like, what about slavery? What about colonialism? So in other words, like something that has such a gigantic importance in even like daily life in terms of like, I remember Owen Cyclops had this one tweet. He's like, from the toothpaste you buy to who you vote for, it's like a theological importance in a way, this one event. But now it doesn't have that because people with like totally radically different worldviews don't really share that. And it's something that our good friend Watching Spyro said. He said, really, when you think of history, it kind of is like a Northern European or like a Greco-Roman, then a Northern European concept in terms of history having a sort of a genealogy to it, right? Because you could say that in India, for instance, history did have a cyclical nature.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like these people, it's like, in a way, like
people, man,
what people? Like, it's that's what I mean. Like the whole thing about America being an ideal and immigrant nation, like the immigrants that they experience, like, okay, who immigrated to America before recently? Irish, us Italians, Slavs, Germans,
Polish.
Well, Germans were the first, arguably.
Yeah.
The Irish. So, Irish and Germany.
Some French too.
Yeah. So it's like other Europeans, in other words. So that claim sort of lands false because now when you have people with totally other genealogies who experience totally other different histories, to put them all together in this one, like not even melting pot anymore. The pot is sort of like, lukewarm. It's sort of like at a one of those, church cookouts with the heating table that's like, 30 years old, and the Knights of Columbus roll it out. But
better than just grilling on the fucking like street of like 81st and in New York, where it's just like enjoy your our curbside barbecue where we're flaming a pig and for all pedestrians to go witness.
That could work if it was like a professional setup like they have in like Asian countries.
See, I would expect it if it was like Salt Bra or something, like, oh look, he's bringing like the culture of Dubai or whatever, right? Like that's different.
But like on bricks, like some third world,
that's welcome to favela land, right? Like it's
but this is like it's Rosinos in Rio de Janeiro. Yeah.
Well, and this goes back to like, because I've been like, I've told other people, I told a mutual friend of ours, like I've just been binging as many lectures of McLuhan as I have as of the last couple of months, because I'm trying to catch up on, I don't know, the media and the digital ecosystem stuff really intrigues me because we're engaging with a system that I think a lot of people A, take for granted, but B, have no idea how much rewires their system. And
cauldron,
the slob cauldron.
And like this subculture, they put everything in there: banana, meat.
You know, in medieval times, we used
rubber
to have
shaving,
forever the cauldron forever. But
used condom rubber shave. Yeah, used to sancocho.
Yeah. But yeah, hello Dora from Brazil. We thank you. Welcome.
Speaking of Rosinos, I don't think Dora lives in a favela. He's got
no. Dora has an actual like good professional career, and then he does all this stuff for us.
If you have a good professional career, like my one cousin does in Brazil,
like professional.
Works for a bank.
professional graphic designer, and then on the side he helps out us strange internet racists.
Because you see in Brazil there kind of is like no, the only real middle class in Brazil is sort of like a lot of expats from Germany and Italy and Japan. Like my relatives are of that class, but notice that the only time Brazil ever had a functioning middle class was when it was A, European immigrants, and B, when it was under the military junta. That's when my grandparents went there. So, it's like, that's the only time. And the only people that live in those apartments that are somewhat middle class are basically like old boomers or like older. So,
oh, well, speaking of like old boomers and pensioners, I recently watched Harry Brown, and I kind of want to talk about it in a minute. But no, to get back to this just bit about sort of history and our perception of it. So like towards the end of like McLuhan's life, he's kind of just like, I would ban radio and television if I had to, if I could.
He becomes a Ted K poster.
Well, he becomes a Ted K poster, but I think it's because for more subtly conservative reactionary reasons. It's not because of the impact on like the technological society aspect. He sees it, and this is why he talks so much about like being orientalizing. Like we have these Western typographic understandings of our history. It's a Western canon. We write things. There's an oral tradition to it. We have odes, hagiographies, but they're written down. They become part of the law. It's typographic. Now, in the midst of this new medium, we are orientalizing the fact that it's not as typographic. It's more infographic. It's more televisual, and it makes us more tribal. It was his point. So basically, he is witnessing sort of the destruction of sort of this Western, i.e., like kind of white understanding of like Western forms of culture and communication. And as he gets more frustrated, and
now it's owned by the world.
Well, now it's owned by the world, but now it's all fused together into one giant melted plastic ball of army men, right? Like if we take it's like
Disney's the perfect example.
Well, Disney is a perfect example. It's a small world after all. But the problem is, as McLuhan points out, when it's a small world after all, we all look around and we see the world. Turns out we really hate each other.
Yeah.
And this sort of Kiliastic notion that we're all going to sing Kumbaya and enjoy the great slop cauldron of the world, where I'm going to go scoop up with my naan this disgusting Ethiopian food. Like, no, I'm not. Turns out I'm going to like look at it on Twitter and like talk about how like great it is to use a fork and knife and eat my steak medium rare. However, the big issue I think that comes with that is that, he's lamenting the death of this Western European Anglo form of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And at the turn of it all, like, because it all melts together, you and I can talk about like the importance of blogging, the importance of going out and having written stuff. But I mean, we look at our culture today. Like, what's one of the most effective ways to communicate ideas? Well, it's memes. Well, what are
TikTok.
Memes right now? Well, memes are sort of these pictographic, highly, they're packed full of information it takes. Like the Giga Chat is kind of eternal in some respects, right?
Yeah.
Like, the idea of like the broad shoulder, square jawed, masculine phenotype, that's perennial, right? But also at the same time, quick 30-second gesticulation with TTS and doing whatever. To me, it just illustrates, wow, that's not, you show that to some like a movie, like share that to like Cary Grant from like 70 years ago, and he's like, we gotta just like Fed post Hollywood, like it's over, it's done.
I think that it's funny. McLuhan had this lecture, or wasn't a lecture, it was an interview in the CBC back in the 50s. Someone showed me or someone posted to me where he talked about how Canada has a choice to look at life through the slow lane, and that we could probably disengage from American mass culture, and like that never happened. We're basically, you have to
Wasn't
realize
that what George Grant was calling for?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I mean, I've read his stuff on Americanization, and he was just like, we don't have to be these people, and I don't blame him.
Because now Canada has the worst excesses of Europe or European culture and American culture, and that's why nothing can work here. Anytime you import any form of European style social planning, it just can't work because we're so thoroughly Americanized. The best example would be these like, Vancouver making all drugs legal and having Insight, those, safe injection places, or I think you can even smoke whatever there. Like it works in Portugal for a variety of reasons, because Portugal still has, a small population. Everyone is more or less, well, I don't think they're homogeneous anymore, but, people are more or less communally involved and blah, blah, blah. but like in Canada it doesn't work because we have the same American atomization, and so therefore you get like basically just a whole city ruined by drug addicts. And it's like, imagine Kensington.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I shouldn't say Kensington, because Vancouver East Side, it's not as violent as Kensington. It's getting there. It'll get there. But imagine like the drug situation in Kensington with like a little bit less violence, but like all the drugs are legal. That's basically what Vancouver is right now, at least the East Side. And so it doesn't work because Canada has the worst of both worlds in a lot of different ways. But anyways, what was I going to say? So like, McLuhan, he had this like supreme optimism at one point, but then he sort of like realized the pitfalls. But
yeah, he only got more and more jaded as time went by.
Oh, another thing about colonialization, I think like another thing I was going to say is that and it's not an original insight, it's pretty obvious, Prude, but like, okay, if you look at, we talk about like these, okay, that tweet, right? These brown people, like people from the Middle East and people from Turkey, which ironically from Turkey, posting about colonization from Turkey is kind of like, woo, right? But like, people from that are of a various like American mixed race, blah blah blah, right? But the thing is, when European and European descended people in North America, when the empire falls, right? A lot of people are not going to be very happy. And I'll tell you why. Because who are the two candidates that are primed in terms of their population, but also in terms of like their geopolitical position? The BRIC nations that are primed to like quote unquote take over if the American empire is doomed, right? China and India. Both civilizations maybe like thousands of years ago with India, if you believe all of the, racist anthropologists on Twitter, but maybe thousands of years ago was India, but certainly not China, because they were too busy taking over each other. China has a little bit of experience with colonialism, but not enough to have this like huge, they have like this period of humiliation, resentment, but that was like relatively short time compared to places like Africa. India, not so much, right? So, apart from the British. But when you have two people that talk, that I notice on online, the two people least likely to talk about like colonialism in this very like libtarded way, like these academic language, Indians and Chinese people, even though they do have an experience with colonialism, especially the Indians with the British, they kind of really don't, because the British, and listen, the British did horrible stuff in India. I'm not saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when it comes to India as a whole, it was known as the jewel of the empire for a reason. So think of it. Two kind of very brutal and xenophobic cultures when it comes to outsiders. I don't think like other peoples of the world are going to have a very fun time being ruled over by the Chinese and by the Indians, as opposed to, the white man. So it's like, I don't know. I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, but of course nobody can like think that far ahead, because of course, like white people, were the hallmark of all evil and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know. I want to see what's going to happen in the 2030s. I wonder what's going to happen then. Like I wonder, you know what I mean?
It'll be pretty interesting to see what happens as sort of like the,
I guess the worst thing they did was teach them English.
Oh, they're so true. But I mean, like India definitely doesn't have an idea to run empire effectively. Like I don't know, when there's a country of middle, when it's a people that's associated with sort of middle management or heading things in sort of a private sense, and even then, like we look at tech companies today, I mean they're incredibly bloated.
Oh yeah.
And incredibly, like, I mean, just everything is like that.
Wait, do Indians on Twitter seethe about the British? I guess, but they always.
Oh man, white man bad, anti-colonialism from the third world. Who would have guessed?
No, but I noticed the Indians. It's kind of different flavor than Africans or Middle Easterners. It's always like, we're the spirit culture. We're gonna take over one day, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like. All I'm saying is that, if the Chinese are sort of your colonial overlords, I don't know.
Well, one
you're
only
gonna have a
has
good
to.
time.
One can look at places like Kazakhstan. One can look at places
Mm-hmm.
like in
Mm-hmm.
Ethiopia or in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa, and you can see how they manage. I mean, there's
Oh
that
yeah.
interview where some Chinese like businessman is, in an African interview, and he's just basically explaining that you people can't do anything. Like you can't run a business, you can't
Empire
run a
of
company.
Dust. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's and so people on Twitter will be like, that's like, based in red pill, it's racist or whatever. But it's just, you're going to see sort of, I think, a much more cold, calculated type of imperial, like it will be a post-Christian imperialism or an anti-Christian
Oh yeah.
imperialism where it's just going to be like there is no compassion. It's the meme where it's like, that's great, now face the wall type deal, where it's like, I'm sorry, I was supposed to be some poet or like socialist.
Well,
It's like, go dig in the mines, and then where the Chinese are just gonna be like, dig the bauxite, and
well,
it's just like,
yeah. The Chinese were colonized by their neighbors. They weren't colonized necessarily by white people, but the colonization that they did experience by their neighbors was brutal, and mass populations were, I can't say it for YouTube, but let's face it, put it this way: the genetics of the genetics of the Han were fundamentally disrupted because of the actions of their neighbors and Mughal empires and so forth.
namaste.
So, but now you have a situation where China is the most powerful player relative to all of their neighbors. And what happens when the Americans aren't there to sort of like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work out well because the Chinese have a very long memory. So, you know what I mean? So I remember, like, I don't know, I'm kind of crossed on this point because I do have a few third worldist tendencies, but at the same time,
a few.
Well, certain nations over it. I don't really trust the Chinese, but
no, I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
but I've seen enough Live Leak to not trust their construction. So, I mean, I'm only more worried about imperial management,
But it's funny because, like, this is what Mark Stein talked about in his book After America, how the world with, and of course because he's a neocon.
What is he up to these days?
I think he's just still a neocon. He's still,
because like in 2008, 9,
he was
or whatever,
everywhere.
Well, he was everywhere, but he was also, I mean, he was doing the neocon, like, the Islamicization of Europe, but he was just basically talking about the Great Replacement, like,
yeah, but without saying
in a very the sort of like, neocon Islam twist. But he's just
exactly.
like, listen, the birth rates are falling, we're being replaced, we need to do something about it. And I was just like, oh wow, like this was like, over 10 years ago. This isn't half bad. And I mean,
he's still on the bent, but he's still kind of, yeah.
In the same way that, like, Helen Andrews is on a certain path, but like you can have hope for these people, right?
Oh, of course, like, yeah. Well, I have a childhood sort of thing with Mark Stein, so
I like Mark. I have his books.
Yeah,
I've listened to every interview he's ever done with the Hoover Institute.
Oh,
like, yeah. Uncommon Knowledge, from the Hoover Institute is something I listened to all the time in high school and college. Yeah. I was for those who don't know, I was definitely the Alex P. Keaton kind of kid,
young Republican kid. But
no, I was like, it was bad. Like I would thank God I know how to talk to people, and I was not a socially awkward.
You were one of those, like, really, yeah. They say that a lot of college Republican.
It kind of worked out because, like, I did all the extracurriculars from student government to debate, track and field, and so it wasn't like I was a total, like, someone who got shoved into lockers. I was like, oh no, I was just like, thank God I was like a respectable person. Yeah, I did. I was a runner.
Man, I should have done some in high school. I wish I did wrestling. I wanted to do wrestling, but then I don't know. Yeah, but
you should have.
I should have, man. I should have. Yeah,
you should have.
But Mark Stein, he had this point in America Alone. No, sorry, it was after America.
It was after America.
Yeah, where he talks about, like, and of course it's got the neocon bent of, like, we have to control things, but he's like, the world after America will be quite a very dark place, even though it's a very dark place now, and a lot of people on the political left will hear that and they'll be like, wow, that's like the like Chomsky center of their brain will explode. And now that bread tubers have discovered GDF videos, it's all over. Right. So it's like, but imagine the horrors of these other people. Imagine the Chinese running the world. Not that the Chinese want to run the world, but imagine if the Chinese end up running the world. I mean, I'm not like racist against Chinese people. I'm just saying the Chinese government and the way that there's like a number of very distinct, I would even say spiritual delineations between the Chinese way of ruling and, Europeans. And I don't think that's like a racist point. I'm just saying like this is the reality of it. If the Chinese wanted to go after their neighbors, they will. And it doesn't matter, right? Not to say that they want to like run the world the way that the British, the Americans had that sort of like expansionist ambition. But, there is something to it, right? Like, yeah, exactly. The biospirit of the Chinese wandering panda is quite different. And they have a very long memory. And it's like if American power were to wane sufficiently to where they probably wanted to make a run at their neighbors, they can. Because I'm sorry, the Mongols of nowadays are not the Mongol. I mean, genetically maybe they are, but like in terms of political and military power, Mongolia and all those other little places, they're not the same, right? Like so I mean the Chinese, it is what it is, like geopolitically. And I think like the fact that like a lot of people, like especially in America, want to like sort of give up their own spirit of distinctness and like this is the national mythology and so forth, because of like why equality or some notion that we have to like accommodate people's own different tales of identity and belonging. It's like what real power in history has ever done that? Even like libtards like Mary Beard, you can't even look to Rome and be like, the Romans, they like loved multiculturalism. They still know who the Romans were. There was still like a distinction, right? And then so it's
do
like,
not research Roman accounts of Ethiopia or other peoples of Anatolia. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Tell me more about that.
I mean, they did raise whole cities and genocide whole peoples. I mean, come on, the Carthaginians.
This post was brought to you by like Salted Carthage Gang. Like,
yeah. I hope Furious can join us so we could talk about that.
Well, right now, what is it? It's about 11 o'clock in the evening over there. Hope maybe.
Did that ever prevent an Australian from coming on a live stream? Never.
Well, I
have a theory that the Australians are the first accelerationist people because they live in the future. They live without the bounds of like time, like the rest of people.
They're also like the testing bed for all of the worst possible things that are that come out of Globo Homo, like Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Yeah. Like those three out of the sort of Five Eyes Anglosphere, they get hit with it first, and then it gets watered down to the rest of the Americans and Brits to some extent.
What are the Five Eyes?
The Five Eyes intelligence community. It's basically the Anglosphere's like intelligence network, But
so it's like
New Zealand, Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Australia.
Okay.
Although New Zealand's kind of in hot water right now because Jacinda Ardern, when she was still in power, was a little too friendly with the Chinese.
Oh, of course.
Why isn't the Prudentialist flexing his library on camera like Geo? Because half of my library is in a giant shipping container that is storage. And then the rest of it is all right here, from right here all the way to my wall. It's just books.
Donate to Prude Super Chat him for the Prude Shelf Fund.
Fund. I just don't have room. Like I need to do something like that. Like when I first moved, like when I had my first apartment, it was bad enough as it is because when I moved out, I was finishing up university and left my folks. My car at the time was this 2006 Ford Taurus.
Oh man,
I loved that car. It was that was a boat. That was a love boat. But it was.
You had an apartment. You didn't have dorms. Or...
No, the university I went to. If you had dorms, they were overly expensive, and really the only people who used the dorms were people who were there for sports scholarships.
Okay.
And it was. So it was just. But my car was just filled. I genuinely like lowered, like the suspension was just giving a really hard time because my car was just filled with books. Like my bedroom at the time was just totally covered with bookshelves and whatnot. And then of course my girlfriend had moved in at the time, and we had more bookshelves. So like our room was just wall to wall bookshelves. And she was a diehard progressive, so it was just like, well, here's some.
Oh, was that the one you were gonna marry, or no? That was a different.
No, someone else. Just the Ford Taurus, almost too stubborn to die. That car lasted me a very long.
You moved in with your Lib Art GS?
I sure did.
How long did that last?
About 3 years.
Oh my god! What? How did it end though? You just
I'm not
Trump?
No, because we met on Trump's. We met on election day. That's a whole other
Whoa!
story. Not gonna get into. I'm not gonna get into
Too bad.
that.
Is it a spicy story though?
It's in a. Well, the ending is a tame story. The beginning's a spicy story. But I think I've told it before on one or two late night rants or streams. But it's
sometimes you just got to move on, man.
I have. It's been years. I'm I'm okay. I'm okay.
No, but I mean, like in the relationship.
Oh,
like,
of course.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work out. I guess I think you did say, if I recall, you just wanted different things, and it just wouldn't.
We did. Oh my gosh, he's getting the look at that. Hi, Meta Prime. How are you?
Whoa.
Hey, on.
Oh, is that a VR headset rig?
It's the VTuber.
Yeah, it's the VTuber rig. Yeah, we're gonna have this fully functional. I got a buddy of mine who's gonna add a few more things. We're gonna get some emotions on the screen, because otherwise I'm just like turning my head and that's all you can see.
Do you think it'll be possible to like change the TV screen to express emotion?
Yes, that is.
That's fantastic.
The plan. Yeah.
Did you know that on Fish Tank this season, they have a Japanese man who is a VTuber but with hentai, where he like interacts with the hentai through. And so, of course, that's who they picked, right, to go on the show. But yeah, you need like some people have like $1,000 rigs where they like do the whole like. Did you ever see that one VTuber? There was the anime girl, and like the rig failed for like a brief second, and it was like some like fugly looking. Like,
I heard about
man.
that. Yeah. I know what happened.
See, the VTuber is just the whole Jungian shadow thing, shadow self, or it's just like, I'm a disgusting, decrepit, like 55-year-old Mongolian man, and then like, bam, I'm this beautiful, hentai manic pixie dream girl of your dreams.
I had an existential crisis this morning because I read a tweet by my good friend Sunwound, who is a great filmmaker, or rather, he retweeted this one thing, or he quote tweeted it, where some account, a small account, said, that Jung, he doesn't talk about like any structures of society or how the social impacts the individual. He talks about like vague things like individuation and the self and the psyche, and then he goes, Jung is the perfect neoliberal philosopher, and I like that. Just like that threw me in an existential crisis right there.
How often do you have existential crises, Gio?
Quite often. But that one in particular, seeing as a Jung is so close to her. What do you think about that, Meta Prime, as a fellow Jung enjoyer?
I don't know. I don't really have strong thoughts about that one way or the other. I really just, I take kind of little bits and pieces from these different philosophers in the ways that they overlap. And so for me, Jung is just like the guy who kind of crystallized the archetype terminology, and I don't get that much deeper than that. I think you guys get much more philosophical on these things than I do.
Well, speaking of philosophy, should we do the is Andrew Tate a Nietzschean debate? Do you have any hot takes on
well, if that's the case, I'm firmly with the Armarnites on this one. No,
cool.
No.
Yeah.
Charles Uxall, he had a great reply to Uber Boyo that I might read on a YouTube short. That was a great one.
See, the thing about YouTube Shorts, especially because like you and Oren have the same problem, where because like YouTube Shorts, they don't have like you can't set up a thumbnail for the video, so like it can just be someone, and like the preview will be like, and you're just like, oh no, like you're in the middle of like giving this.
You can pick.
You can pick. Well, someone better tell Oren, because like half of his like shorts are just like, and it's just like, okay, we gotta fix it,
That's why I'm conscious to like smile at the beginning or the end, so I know that that's the thumbnail.
I think I might do shorts, but I might have them set up to where it's the so for instance in the background of this. Let me change the banner real quick on the brand. I might change it to this. I'm gonna hide us real quick to see if I can. Or put us all on the side. Nope, wrong thing. Oh, that's even worse. I'm just trying to get into.
Version. That was cool.
There we go. Like so it'll look like this, and then I can just give the take and maybe have some like photo overlay. But yeah, I don't know, because I'm not a fan of because I don't want to do shorts where it's like my face or whatever. Like the only thing where I've shown myself doing a short was I was doing I was recording some fishing footage, and I had one of my lures caught in a tree. I was trying to get it, and the water was way deeper. And so, yeah, I was just pouring out water out of my boots, making a joke about the instruction written on the heel, and sort of a blooper. Other times I've just done little shitposty memes. Like I've got the George Wallace campaign song in the backdrop of like a bunch of like race rioting and stuff like that. It's
God.
You know, like, listen, if it's going to be 1968 again, where there's like, you know, wars in Israel, we've got like ethnic tensions in America, and we have a contested presidential election. Hey, man, like, I don't want, if we're going to redo 68, you know, we've got better choices than Richard Nixon.
Can you imagine 68 with like Twitter and the internet? That'd be
terrifying. Could you imagine? No, I want the 1960 election with Twitter and the internet, because like I want, you know, just Richard Nixon.
We would meme Nixon into oblivion. Yeah,
I want Richard Nixon viciously shitposting, because he would be like Zero H.P. Lovecraft. You know, like he's great on radio and he's great in like the print, but he's terrible on like visual communication. That's why the debate and the TV thing is so important. So like he would be like Zero H.P. Lovecraft styles of shitposting.
Yeah, we need the shit posters.
He'd be telling Jackie, you know, he'd be telling Jackie Kennedy to lose weight, you know, and then Jackie Kennedy would be doing this live stream, going through his tweets, eviscerating him. Like we're awful, you know, like this.
Richard Nixon, but with the spirit of Donald Trump.
Imagine. Was he the last normal president? I don't think so. I think the last normal president probably was
Herbert Walker. No.
Well, he's the last. Well, I would argue there was competency with Herbert Walker, but the last normal president was probably, and this is a hot take, was probably Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, because Reagan was like the Hollywood, you know, fabulous president. Yeah, you could say that. Reagan was like the first postmodern president when you think about it. Probably Jimmy Carter, even though, like, you know, I mean, I don't know, Jimmy Carter, there was a competency crisis there in some ways too, but.
Oh, I mean, like, I think Jimmy Carter is probably one of the last.
Yeah.
Uniquely, well, I would say, I don't want to say uniquely American, but he has that sort of Southern agrarian spirit to him. He had sort of I don't know. I think people just associate him, of course, with the oil crisis and the issues in the Middle East. But I mean, he has a lot more to do with
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many more interesting scandals that happened under Carter's administration that no one wants to talk about. Like, you know, does anyone, like, you know, the Andrew Young affair to me is like a particularly timely thing. Well, Andrew Young was assigned as the ambassador to the United Nations for the United States. And he had met with leaders of the Palestinian Liberation Authority.
Oh, yeah, that's
against explicit instructions not to, because the United States has a stronger position on Israel. Of course, Andrew Young is black. And so this is the sort of tensions between African Americans and Jews in the United States. And it's fantastically covered in Murray Friedman's book, What Went Wrong? The Creation and Collapse of the Black Jewish Alliance. Dimes from Blood Satellite Night. We have like 6 hours of content on that book alone.
He would have had a Palestinian flag in his bio nowadays.
Oh, he would.
Twitter was in the 70s.
And I mean, what's so funny is that he did this huge heel turn, and he was like pro-Reagan because he had gotten spurned.
That was like Eldridge Cleaver was like a founder of the Black Panthers, became a Reaganite, like unironically.
You know, black liberationist to Reaganite. You know, it's crazy.
That's like Hotep. That was like when Hoteps had that thing with the alt-right, and like you'd see like Hoteps go in like Richard Spencer spaces, and someone would people would post the meme of like of George Lincoln Rockwell.
Oh yeah, and all the Malcolm X meetings.
With Malcolm X, yeah. Like, one of them, they were like 2 soy jacks. So that was, oh my god, that's so brutal. Only nowadays, like I would never disgrace the legacy of. Yeah.
But I mean, isn't that crazy to think about though? That like our modern, like we talk, like there's as much talk about like conceptual.
Doesn't Jared Taylor stream with that black woman? What's her name? Tree of Logic.
I don't know.
There's that black woman that Jared Taylor streams with. It's the most surreal thing ever. If you could see it.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's the same way where people like still try and meme David Duke into relevance, where he'll like do stuff with like black Hoteps, and it's like, can we work together against a common enemy? And it's just like the most room temp, like anti-Semitism stuff, and you're just like,
it's the Martin thesis of vulgar anti-Semitism.
I'm good, Dr. Duke. I'm good. You know, I'm okay. I'm fine. You know, like horseshoe theory confirmed. Like, thanks, Carl. Carl Benjamin, like the eternal winning, I guess. But no, I mean, isn't it strange though that like for as much talk as there is about like cyclical versus conceptual history, and Meta, you definitely might have some insight on this, just because like you're also plugged in and you have some. It's maybe a different perspective than Gio and I do. Is that you know, isn't it strange that like our idea of like conceiving history in general is almost purely through like meme culture hermeneutics? You know, like who is the soy jack of the story? Like it's very. I don't know. To me, it's kind of insane to think about that there are like the GDF videos or other or even like old classic folk songs about like the War of 1812 or whatever, and it'll show the guy with like the Wojak or whatever, and it's and it'll
how the
just be
Lebanese
like,
got so good at smoking Americans. That's the
or even just music, right? Like, you know, you're going after John Paul Jones, but like he's actually attacking you from like the stern. And it's like the British song John Paul Jones was a pirate, but like there's the Wojak and you hear like cannonball shots in the background. Like it's a very strange way to perceive history for a people that we have no connection to it, right? Like, you know, it's been hundreds of years. I mean, how do you view it? Because to me, it seems like this is a new paradigm for how history is going to be perceived going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a story how I think about these things, but the simple explanation is you think of like Jung and the archetypes, right? And these being kind of eternal, right? You always have your young hero, your corrupt old king, right? You have the wise old man, right? And I think those archetypes live in vastly more complex nuances, right? And it's just a cycle. It just repeats. Like one of the things that I think is transcendent about our lives is like we sometimes figure out the answer from time to time, but we always forget it and we need to be reminded, right? So we're just kind of destined to rerun all of these scripts through history with, you know, different characters, but they're all playing, you know, the same timeless parts effectively.
Those like people that like I don't know, it's such a stupid, you know, way of looking at the thing. I mean, from my perspective, but people were like thinking of why can't we get like AI programs to become the perfect neutral historian? And it's like it's never gonna work. It's never gonna work.
I mean, you're always looking through truth through a lens, right? So it's impossible not to kind of project some sort of bias on things.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess like, and I remember people comparing it to that one. I had to read it in university. I don't particularly like Asimov as a writer. I think he's he's a very wooden writer. You know, that what was that concept called psychohistory? Yeah. Psychohistory from Foundations.
Yeah.
People were comparing it to that, like that through an exploration of history, like the AI could like you know, create this like perfect clarity and also have this like predictive power to it, but it's like, well, you know,
and it's funny because if you read for instance like the Three Body Problem books, right, the popular Chinese, like they also have that viewpoint where we can predict things. We have the capability to look at all factors of the world and make sound predictions. But also when we're dealing with an enemy that has like a technological advantage, right, we can extrapolate and do things in secret, right? This is why like the detente between the Trisolarans and humanity is because one guy, you know, had been basically in suspended animation, and he's like, wait a second, I tried this experiment forever ago and it worked out. We destroyed a planet somewhere else, so now I have the capability to hold my world and the others hostage. And then, of course, you get the Chinese view of how to subdue their enemies. Like, actually, we subdued Earth because we made you think that we're at peace and that our cultures can work together. And you've been so weakened that for once you don't have the willpower to destroy both worlds. And that's what brings about sort of the end of Earth and humanity.
They say the three bodies problem is like that sino-futurist propaganda. Like,
I think Americans should read the book, especially if you want to like get into like the foreign service or whatever. Because if you want to understand how like a Chinese statesman thinks or like how they conduct policy, that book is a pretty damn good explanation for how the Chinese look at the world. I don't think it's an Asiatic future. Well, maybe it is Sino-futurism, but like to me, it's interesting, hard science fiction. But also, I'm reading this and I'm just like taking notes. I'm like, so this is how the Bugman thinks. Interesting, you know, like. I think that is, and I mean also like the concept of the dark forest. Like they'll say, "Oh, this is horrifying." To me, I'm like, this is how the Chinese view international relations. You know, like there is the dark forest, and if we don't let ourselves be seen, we can't be attacked. This is why we have to do things in the shadows and try not to get caught. And this is why Belt and Road Initiative stuff is so important to follow. Yada yada yada. It's to me a very interesting book.
I like the Sam Hyde bit about the bear bile cages.
Yeah,
human bear bile cage.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that you're right, Meta. That there is sort of we look through a mirror or a looking glass, so to speak, as we do it. And I think that someone in chat says, we are what we inherit, and that's very true, Generico. And what do we inherit? Well, whether we like it or not, as Americans, we inherit. Well, Gio, you're spiritually American. Sorry, by nature of your in your online terminal.
Is that a reference to the wrestler El Generico, aka Sami Zayn? You know what's funny? Sami Zayn, he's a pretty big I think he's Syrian, but he's like one of these like Chomskyites. So like I think like he got in trouble from Vince because he kept posting about the Palestinians and
oh boy.
But then I don't know, because the WWE has a pretty weird relationship with Saudi Arabia, like. So I don't know how. I mean, are the Saudis pro-Palestinian or no? I guess now
the Saudis are in a weird position where they're now in detente and engaging in sort of normalizing diplomatic
with
relations
China and Iran,
with Iran. The thing I wanted to get, we are what we inherit, and I mean for Americans, like what is the greatest inheritance we have in terms of culture and media is, well, Joseph Campbell's the Hero of 1,000 Faces. I mean, for Americans that, not a lot of people have read the book, but I mean, everyone has been exposed to the hero's journey as he conceptualized it, even if it's more simplified. And I mean, so for us, like, it's not so much a hermeneutical way to look at mythology and like great man theory of history. It's just a paint by the numbers formulation for how media culture works. And so for Americans, like, there has to be the entryway into the story, into the adventure, the rising action, the wise old man. And I mean, this is why you see it being appropriated to like, libtard gay race communism stuff. I mean, like, look at the first Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse stuff, right? Like the Peter Parker as we know is the old, like white kind of washed up old man character. Miles Morales has to inherit it. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope, Peter Parker has to sacrifice. Obi-Wan sacrifices himself, and he sets the example for our new young. And so for, again, as Americans, that hero's journey is just nothing but technique. It's formula to paint by the numbers to tell your story. And unfortunately, you can have the most perfect, fill in the blank, connect the dots story formula as it is. It still can suck really bad. Like your lines aren't straight. It can be wiggly or wobbly. The colors aren't coordinated. And that's the problem with today's media and why it sucks is that you can be given the formula, but if you don't know the technique, if you don't know how to perfect it, if you don't know what makes good writing, and you're so desperate to get your point of view in, then it fails. And it's ugly, and it's nasty, and they're box office bombs. I mean, you look even the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like up until Endgame, right? Like competent writing, sort of like there's the likable characters, decent dialogue, but then afterwards. We've killed everyone. Everyone's moved on. It's time to bring in the next generation, the new wave, and it all goes to shit because they can't. Yeah, there you go.
I have thoughts on this.
Go for it.
Yeah. So all right. Have you heard the idea that the hero's journey is effectively the blueprint for how to solve a problem? Has anyone kind of pitched you this idea?
No, not to solve a problem. I just hear it as technique for American media.
All right, so I'm pretty proud of this. I don't think anyone else. I don't know. Maybe this is a meta original, but maybe not. But my general idea with this is, Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. It's the basic blueprint for how you solve a problem, right? You start out in the ordered, known world. You get that call to adventure. The problem presents itself. The wise old man provides that, the wisdom of the past. It gives you that, magical tool. And so that you head into the unknown, right? You confront the problem. Typically, you are met with trial and tribulation, difficulty, right? And it's through that gaining of strength, that gaining of knowledge and understanding, that you have that death and rebirth. You can think of that as like throwing out the old framework, or what didn't work about the old framework, and then adding what does. And that allows you to then solve the problem, reap some reward, whether it's saving the damsel in distress or gaining some sort of treasure, and then you come back to the classic world forever changed. right? And so in my mind, one of the key elements of history is we didn't just evolve physically, we evolved psychologically, right? And so we kind of embedded these lessons, these stories into, the lessons into the stories. And then the people who are better at listening and absorbing those lessons, especially this like universal blueprint for the most fundamental thing, right? Solving a problem, right? Because that makes sense. That makes sense that the Campbell's The Hero's Journey as the meta myth of all myths is the thing that, everyone needs to know, which is problem solving. And so the people who are able to absorb that better, were more successful in the world. They were able to solve more problems. And so we evolved psychologically to resonate when that story is told and told well, right? When we see the problem solving arc in action, right? It just kind of like tickles a primal part of ourselves. And so in the modern world, this is why you have like the Mary Sue issue of like Rey Skywalker is such a problem, right? Because she's effectively already too strong. She doesn't have to solve any problems. She's just kind of plowing her way through stuff. And it doesn't make that interesting in any way. And so if we break that kind of fundamental pattern, it no longer tickles that innate like psyche part of us. And it doesn't resonate. And that's the problem with all this modern stuff, is that they're subverting what we know to be naturally true. Right. And it just doesn't click.
That was Zero H.P. Lovecraft's point. I ended up writing about it in my book. He called it, you can find the article in ChadNet. It was something about, the title had Zendaya in it.
Oh, the multiverse story that he had.
Multiverse and Zendaya. It was like, it was a nonfiction thing where he talked about, he called it the queer monomyth, where it's like the fundamental inversion of that tale, where now the hero starts off from the starts off from the position of being whole and perfect, and the society around them just has to become more sort of gravitated around their own unique eccentricity of identity. And it usually comes from, being and of course he used the academic lingo of queerness, which is that sort of particular character outside of the norm that you embrace for a variety of reasons. And of course he's like, well, at the end of the day, it probably is just being gay, but like, like in the multiverse, like Miles, whatever.
Yeah.
And so like he used that as an example. He also used this other, I think it was like, because like Korean left-wing cinema is pretty popular now. It's like, like Parasite, but there was this other one where everyone's like, basically like a slop American where they all look disheveled and fat and blah blah blah, and it's like a
right-wing reading for Parasite is just basically look, these poor people are awful. Every time that they do something, like the situation only gets worse.
Especially at the end where like the guy stabs everyone. He lives in the basement. Like he literally is a parasite like that. And he reacts to his overlords badly.
It's like Crime and Punishment. Like
no, but that's what I mean. I think that Korea is like the worst of both worlds, because you still have like a class-based society, but now you have this like weird form of like hyper-capitalism and post-modernity. Whereas like back in the day, if you had a form of like,
they're having incel elections,
if you had a form of regalia, a form of like aristocracy towards your class-based caste system. I mean, here's what people get wrong. Here's what leftoids get wrong, where they say like, oh, well, that was just the aesthetics. It really was just masking power. It's like, no, the aesthetics were important, right? Like it wasn't just they were wearing fancy things or they had the sort of aesthetic markers of aristocracy. But class and caste-based systems, they kind of worked back then because you had this like very aesthetic orientated society. Whereas like nowadays, if you have like drab minimalist hyper-capitalism combined with like a strict caste-based society, like in Korea, like, oh, that's not going to work. That's like total spiritual alienation, but that didn't matter because people were still poor. It's like, whoa, this world isn't perfect. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
but, but nowadays we could have like, the pork belly being cooked in the middle of the street and on bricks. So it's in the middle of Times Square. But you were going to say...
Well, I mean, there's also like the decadence problem too, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why does the Mary Sue exist to some extent? Because the Mary Sue or the average viewer and the average literally me syndrome, the main character syndrome for like a lot of women, there are no problems for you. And if there are problems, they're all self-inflicted problems. But I mean, in regards to...
It was like 50 Shades of Grey.
Most popular book in the world for a reason, right? But like, it does, the Mary Sue is the anti-Campbell because the Mary Sue has no conflict. If everything's perfect, you can't have rising action, you can't have tensions, there's no anything. Again, like the whole Rey Skywalker thing's so damn funny. Like we're gonna go down and we're gonna drown in the water, right? Like cool. Mary Sue's Rey Skywalker's raised on a desert planet. How the hell did she not just drown? Like the movie could have ended right there and it would have been so great. But so like we have
50 Shades of GAE there. Exactly.
And it's just crazy to think about the fact that because you have no modern, like what is modern problem to us? Well, they're all self-inflicted problems. We've been given this great gift of like a prosperous sort of like, even if you want to say it's neoliberal or whatever, like you've been given a proper, like, here is the safe way track to life. A lot of these problems are self-inflicted problems because, well, how do we fall? Well, we fall into decadence. We fall into hubris. Like, I can do anything. And, no one's going to stop you from doing anything. And that's the Mary Sue aspect of it. Whereas, again, traditional ways and means in which characters develop and encourage conflict and see the world and have tension. Those are traditionally masculine, usually white male roles. We can't have that anymore. And that becomes the external problem for politics and for technology that we have to deal with is that no, there actually are enemies, there are tensions, there are conflicts, there is rising action. We're in the middle of a conflict. The hero's journey for you is, can you overcome this great filter that is coming for you?
Also, that safety net's quickly being eroded as well.
Well, yeah, the pensions are not going to be there. I love this. See, I just use I use these to react with people. Like this one is great. I like this one. This.
That's such an eternal meme. Oh, that one. Yeah.
Golden Blood Feast.
He's a moderate in this.
My John Mearsheimer from the Lex Friedman interview, when someone says so stupid, you got to give him that the John Mearsheimer stare. I wonder
what did Lex Friedman ask him? I didn't even watch that one.
Oh my gosh! So what Lex Friedman was talking about?
You need like the calm NPR voice. How are we gonna ensure world peace?
Oh God,
John Mearsheimer. Wow,
so it's just like
world
so Lex Friedman's just like, so I believe in the power of individuals, and I think that if Zelensky and Putin just got into a room, could hash out their differences, I really think that world peace could happen. And John just gives him this stare, and John just gives him the classic John Mearsheimer stare. We're like 2.5 hours into this interview, and Mearsheimer's like, "This guy's retarded. This guy's a retard." And John is just like, well, listening to Friedman be like, "Well, I believe in the power of the individual. Like these guys can come together." And John's just like, "There's like a 1% chance in hell that happens."
Oh my God,
it's so.
I agree with Speg Kaczynski. "River of Deceit," such a Kino song. That's Mad Season's that was a great album that Lane did before he died. But like that podcast, I mean,
it's 4 hours long. I'm a traditionalist. I don't watch videos or podcasts at 2 times speed. I think that's really bad for the way you process information.
Interesting. I only can like listen to things at like 2 times speed at this point.
Yeah, but Meta, you have that Silicon Valley mindset of like.
Yes, I am just a robot. So
yeah, like you're just,
in real life.
You're I think you're a tech bro. Like it's part of the.
Well, Meta, have you been following the Teapot drama? Speaking of tech bros.
No, I haven't. I mean, real quick, I just wanted to weigh on what Prue was saying, because I do think that it's a very like important point about like you have to like invite challenge into your life at like the kind of stage that we're at, right? Where you have like this comfort around you. And I think like that is the problem that most people have, is they're kind of just, they're comfortable. obviously, Warhammer 40K, fantastic lore if you haven't like gotten into that and read it, and it gets memed a bunch. But this is literally the story of the Eldar, right? The Eldar are this enlightened race of psychic, they're like the future elves, right? And they
Are
just
they a
live
different
so
species like the Slanesh, or like a different
Oh,
species?
well, so Slanesh, so I'm going to get to that because like Slanesh is the
very
god
Oh
Like,
god,
of
it's a Warhammer 40k stream.
have to explain
yeah,
all-
yeah.
We're,
Well,
we're terrible right wingers where we don't know jack shit about 40k.
All right. Well, so all right, I'll give you the very, very basics, and especially I think this would be nice for your listeners just get a little intro. But there's the warp is the immaterium. It's right, like the realm of gods, and you can think of these things as like aggregors for different emotions, right? So you have like Khorne, who's the blood god. He's like the war god. You have Nurgle, who's like the god of decay. You have Tzinch, or Tiznich, or however people want to say it, and that one's like the god of like deception and knowledge and change.
Slanesh is the god of decadence or something like that.
Yes,
right?
yeah. And so basically Slanesh is born like she's an egregore of the decadence that arises from the Eldar race once they've kind of like taken over the galaxy. They don't really have anything to do. And so they live forever, right? So they can just be reborn through these soul stones and stuff like that. So they
the
just
Eldar
get it.
are kind of like the Brahmins. They're like the highest of intellect and
Yeah, and then they fall to this decadence and they start like doing like huge orgies and get really into like gladiatorial combat and stuff like that. And so Slanesh,
all Brahmin castes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a beautiful like allegory to I think what is definitely happening now, where it's like, all right, are you going to to fall and create this like Slaneshi god that we're seeing in all of these things that are happening in the mainstream, or are you going to like break away and try to pursue something higher? So yeah, it's an interesting like time in our lives, but I think it does require inviting and challenge.
No, that is a persistent theme. Unfortunately, like it can end up bad for theory cells because like a lot of like Brahmin types and literary people and like literary F-slurs and theory cells throughout history, they had this thing where like something just like breaks in their brain where they like feel like it's almost like a form of bad faith where they feel like they have to go out there and do something. And so they end up like going and embracing like some of the most like embarrassing grung brain like challenges, or it's like Teddy Roosevelt hunted bears, like Michel Foucault in like 1968 was throwing bricks at policemen off of the Collège de France with his students. And nowadays, even theory cells, they end up like hooking themselves up with embarrassing lolcows on the internet. So you know what I mean? There is a persistent thing.
Through bricks. Teddy Roosevelt, hunted bears. Hunter Avalon hid behind women.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even say Hunter Avalon was a theory cell Brahmin cast because Avalon. Here's the thing.
Let me have my joke. Let me have my joke.
Or no ideas.
Let me have my joke. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted was my joke. But go ahead.
But can you blame him for like people were saying? Can you blame him for like hiding behind his? It's like why would you hide behind your girlfriend? Like that was
only always.
Like if anything, you just
can you blame him always?
What'd you say?
Can you blame him always?
Yeah, always. Exactly. No, because like if you wanted to hide, you'd like force her into the house. You wouldn't like hide. She got shot in the leg. You wouldn't like hide behind your girlfriend. Like, come on, if someone's shooting at my girlfriend, I wouldn't be hiding. I'd hide her, but it wouldn't be like the way he was like towering.
You're bulletproof, right?
Yeah, as long as you don't trip over a bench or anything.
Yeah, you're good.
No, but you know what I mean. Like you would hide together. You wouldn't like hiding behind her. I think is like that's like the biggest ick of the century. Like even men get the ick from that. You know what I mean? Like that was. Anyways,
did we just have what was the word for ick prior to this? Was it just turnoffs?
Turn off, I think.
Yeah.
Soul Brahmin.
See, yeah, I like this. We don't have like Brahmin. We have the broadcast. Like
Soul Bra, Moon Bra.
Brian Johnson
is leading line of her generation's girlfriend had to sacrifice yourself for his sake. Well, that is pretty base though. Then that is pretty. No, I'm kidding. You can't make anything based out of that. There's no baseness whatsoever. The best was when he screen capped and it was like in Comic Sans, the message.
That's the best. Oh, no! Comic Sans. Like that's a terrifying way to go.
Why did guys with beards and like the cut glasses. Why do they end up blowing their heads off online? Like that guy from 4chan, or like there's other examples, but like I don't know. Like the big soy beard and glasses. Maybe Matt. No, I'm not going to mention Matt Walsh. Maybe someone will discover that Matt Walsh. Screen cap this for clarity. If Matt Walsh ever had a sex scandal involving a trans person, that'll probably be him on live stream. You know what I mean?
No, he would just turn into Mike Cernovich.
Oh, no. He's a mutual of mine. I can't insult Mike Cernovich.
I'm not insulting him. I'm just pointing out the possible avenue if Matt Walsh.
It was a joke. It was a joke article.
Scandal.
I don't know. Well, he says it was a joke article, but
yeah.
I have a supreme deference for people that follow me on Twitter, even if they're like people were like talking about Bronze Age Shoddy or whatever. But like Bronze Age Shoddy, she followed me out of the goodness of her heart, so I can't bash her too hard. You know what I mean? Same with RFH, like
Oh man, those are two very different people. I have no interest in Radfem, but Shorty's nice. I think she just like there's a lot of women.
She's a confused young girl and she needs a good man in her life. There you go. I would say that to her face as well.
Well, I think there's a lot of situations where there's like women who get red pilled, whether it's like a boyfriend or like just the internet does it to them or something, right? And then they realize like, oh shit, I'm surrounded by like all of these people who I don't really relate with anymore. And so just like every anon, they go online, but it's harder for them to relate in the way that guys relate. And so,
the right-wing e-girl has that eternal struggle.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like two paths for the right-wing e-girl. It's like you either start posting like, faceless selfies and, and get like that kind of attention, or you just, are terminally posting, old classic art. You become an aesthetics poster, so. It's,
or you like freak out and like again something like explodes in your brain and you become like the most vicious of radfems.
Oh yeah.
Say what you want about RFH.
Which way?
Yeah, which way? Right way,
Western women.
Which way?
RFH or Bronze Age Shoddy? I would tweet that, but that would piss people.
Like you could almost sort of do it in sort of like an e-right Twitter Didache type deal. There are two paths: the paths of Bronze Age Shoddy, the paths of Radfem Hitler.
RFH, Holly Himmler.
One is death, one is confusion.
What's funny is that say what you want about RFH, but like every time I read her handle, it's one of the most clever handles I've ever. It's the funniest one. Hollow Earth Turf, like that like, mwah, that just says so much. Like that's such a Hollow Earth Turf.
I'm gonna look her up right now, and I'm just gonna read through some of her tweets because I like every
She's
one of
a nice
them.
person in real life, believe it or not. That's what I've been told.
She just always every time. Maybe the problem is like I'm mutuals with Lion, and Lion just like finds whatever horrible takes that she has. Yeah, exactly, and he just like quote tweets it. And I don't follow her, so that's the only exposure I get is just Lion like amplifying her worst tweets and like going ballistic on them. So. Maybe my consumption of her content's a little biased.
You have to view RFH as like a weird poet of the internet age. Like she's kind of like the Sylvia Plath of right-wing Twitter when you really think about it. Mm-hmm. I know it's gonna sound it sounds crazy coming out of my mouth, right?
See, now I want to do a play or a book where instead of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, it's Who's Afraid of Radfem Hitler. I think it'd be a good story.
Zero
HP Lovecraft, get on it.
Oh God.
Did
you see a certain Kohler, Vanta Black Kohler came back? Well, two actually.
I did.
Yeah, Med Gold and
oh right, yeah, the return of Med Gold.
And the return, ironically, at the same time, the return of Garbage Ape. Isn't that crazy?
I'm not familiar with that
I didn't know about Garbage Ape was back.
Yeah, he came back.
Good on him.
Good. But someone will quote tweet him with his face, and he'll
be gone in a minute.
He called me ugly, which I mean, okay, maybe I'm not the prettiest picture, but like, I don't know, man. Not just calling another man ugly because that's kind of catty and effeminate, but like, I mean,
I don't
come
know.
on,
it's
like,
very
man.
it's the most like liberally. I'm trying not, but it's just really,
Yeah.
when men call things ugly, it's usually about women, but B, it's also
Yeah.
about just like the environment or society or a particular like mood or whatever. Like, this is a very ugly place to be. I was in an ugly place in my life. That woman was ugly. And speak of the devil, there is an Australian that comes on to here. We're talking about women, and lo and behold, we talk about
I think
e-girls.
calling women ugly is kind of also something that a man shouldn't do. Like,
Well,
it's just kind of a, it's
we talk
catty
about
and-
e-girls, and Furious Pertinax joins the stream.
Idea.
Well, Furious, we were talking about before about how Rome wasn't exactly the picture of multiculturalism, and they actually did genocide whole races off the face of the earth. But
oh yes, and actually, like, legitimately, oh, here's a city, oh, blot, it's gone off the map. Whoopsies.
How does Mary Beard square that circle?
Yeah.
Furious.
This is a massive bone of contention that exists between, well, not between AM and I. Let's just say that AM and I hold this for the majority of historians that we actually read, and it's this kind of somehow modern day shit libs can square off being classicists or being fans of certain epochs with their ideological framework, which as us guys know in our circle doesn't work in the current sense. Like, if liberalism has done one thing competently, it's discredit itself in real time, right? And then it's a case of like, oh, by the way, these values, let's apply them to ancient Athens. Let's apply them to the Roman Republic. It's just like, oh, fuck off! It's just so stupid.
It's like classicists being libtards. It just doesn't make sense because apparently a lot of classicists, they're like secret neo-pagans as well. So like, but then you have like the libtards, but then in classics, like a wink and a nod if you're a neo-pagan or not. But like, anyways, exactly. Go if you're.
Yeah, no. It's sort of true, and I think in some ways too, if you get like this sort of materialistic atheist type, you can kind of somehow there's like this a logical way that you can sort of square. It's like, oh, actually, yes, I'm a fan of Claudius, or yes, I'm a fan of Tiberius Caesar, and he wasn't one of these modern types of people. It's like, do you really think that Caligula was a liberal? I mean, he might have been he might have been a degenerate. He might have been a degenerate as all hell.
You should
but
tweet that out, Furious, and get some sweet Twitter engagement.
Yeah,
get your check.
No, because their basis of Caligula is the movie with Malcolm McDowell and Helen Mirren.
Yeah, true.
That was a great movie, though. It was funded by he was such a Renaissance. Listen. I know he ran a smut magazine. Okay, I know he ran Penthouse, but was it Penthouse or was it It was another one. Was it Bob Guccione? He funded that film. And he would like take porn stars and he would like put them with Helen Mirren and Malcolm McDowell.
Exactly where Helen Mirren belongs.
Oof.
Did you see that interview with Helen Mirren? She was all feminist. She like had her tits hanging out. Like,
although to be honest, nothing quite beats like the Chad factor of when Gaddafi invited like 100 Italian models over for like he invited them. He's like, apparently there's like some offer. It's like, oh well, by the way, I'm going to offer like this lucrative short-term contract, to like, I want to do adverts for Libya and, opening up to the world. And, because of the proximity between Italy and Libya made sense to like put the offer out to Italian models, and like they disembark in Tripoli, and like the next minute he hands them the green book and like Qurans and
no, I was right.
And it's like, yes, you should be modest.
No, but Bob Guccione, he was an art collector. He was a painter himself.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Renaissance man. He invited all these intellectuals to have dinner with porn stars. Like I believe Isaac Asimov and Carl Sagan also would like. I believe he invited Henry Kissinger.
Once a philosopher, twice a science fiction writer.
It was like Bob Guccione was like the good version of Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean? Like he truly was a Renaissance man that believed.
So basically, like a Renaissance man who isn't a Mossad agent. Like,
someone clip that.
Was Epstein a Mossad agent?
Good, Jeffrey. There are numerous ties between.
Oh well, his father-in-law was Robert Maxwell was.
Oh, yes. There you
Gisling's
go.
dad. Mm.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? In Fish Tank, they had a game where Sam Hyde, Jebediah Goldstriker, like got them to like.
Hold on, where's the
to list names off the flight logs?
Mm.
Who do you guys think is? Did they release the flight logs?
No. Well, some of them have been.
They've been leaked, I think, like in an extraditional sense, but not formally. And
I
there
was in a
was, there
space.
was meant to be a client list. Oh, sorry, Prime. I was just gonna
No,
say
you go
that
for it.
there was a client list that was like meant to be released in New York State, and the judge like, oh, this is too like risky to public knowledge to release, so I'm actually gonna put a bar on it. You know, it's like, wow, judiciary doing slippery things. Who would imagine that? Sorry, Prime. Go
Yeah.
ahead, mate.
Yeah, no, I mean, real quick, I was just going to say, recently been connecting with, I don't know if you know Clay Martin. He's done some interesting books written. He's like a GWAT, that guy. But he had a space the other night and he was explaining his take on this, which is just nothing ever. It's kind of like a nothing ever happens take where it's like, look, there is no amount of smoking gun evidence that is ever going to be enough to get these guys, out of here. And so it's like, yeah, it'd be great if they release the names, but we shouldn't really have like high hopes for any kind of results out of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. It's like trying to find out, all the ins and outs behind 9/11. You're never going to know.
Never.
And as much info you dump into or dive into, it doesn't matter. The commission did their report. You're not going to get any.
Yeah, all you need to know is Building 7, and and then like as long as you just don't believe the official report, I think you're like you got 95% out of what you should get out of that. So
it's funny how like the 4chan meme manifested in real life that Israel did 9/11.
Yeah, no shit. Or it could be. I mean, you probably get the analogy quite well. Is that it could be one of the situations whereby, for 99 years the establishment per se like denied black and blue. It's like, oh no, like the Germans were the bad guys for sinking the Lusitania, like that's what brought us into the war because the Germans are the bad guys. And then the manifest got like accidentally released during one of Trump's declassifyings, like when he first became president. It's like, oh, here's the ship's manifest. Oh, it did have thousands of rounds of ammunition and artillery shells and shit that they did declare was on the ship. And there was thousands of people who were casualties because the U-boat engaged it, which they were lawfully able to engage according to like the rules of naval warfare. And the thing that made the villains during the Germans the villains in World War I actually turns out the Germans were right. Wow. Imagine my shock,
Well, it's funny because the German League in America, they like took out they took out multiple ads in the New York Times warning people like, listen, if you're going to go on this ship, don't go on this ship because we're going to sink it. And it's sort of like, I mean, what else are they going to do, right?
And I think it does speak to sort of the way cultural warfare is still waged in the United States. And I don't mean like cultural war, like, like the war on Christmas, like yelling about the holiday cup at Starbucks, but I mean like prosecuting an actual cultural sort of destruction of an idea. Like World War I happens and like there are thousands of German like newspapers. There are Lutheran churches that do their services, their mass in German.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's all gone by the end of like by 1919.
It's done.
Like it's gone. And the same thing where I'm noticing like how American universities make things like more and more progressive and with respects to people. So it's just like like the third generation like Muslim immigrant that comes to the United States and their son is like trans or whatever, and it's just like
people were freaking about the one like that photo of like the grandfather and his like Hapa grandson. You saw that one?
Well, no, I have. Or are you referring to the
genetic
MasterCard advertisement with like the football stuff?
No, it was like
this jerseys.
It was like this dorky Asian kid.
Oh, this is my great grandfather.
Yeah, my great grandfather. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
I haven't seen it. No,
people were like,
I know the one you mean, George.
But I mean, it is particularly interesting though to witness where there was that popular TikTok that was going around during like Ramadan or whatever. He's like, how I do my Ramadan, and he's like waking up super early to eat before sunrise, and then he's doing all these things with his like daughters or whatever. And then like at the end of the Ramadan or the video towards sundown, getting ready to eat, him and his husband, it was a homosexual couple, and you're just like, whoo, but like. That's a pretty interesting way in which like things are starting to come in contact with sort of this like little gay West.
Yeah, this is true.
And you're just like, oh man, and so again, it goes down to the thing that like Helen Andrews was doing the whole like gay empire thing for the American conservative, but like, isn't it terrifying that like if you were traditional in any religion or ideology, like there is this like hovering mass of like neoliberal capital or whatever. It's like, listen. You can bomb, you can have your little suicide bombings, you can have your trucks, you can have your religions of peace, but at the end of the day, your children will cut their dicks off, and like there's nothing.
They're gonna be gay.
That's a terrifying like weapon of like war.
Yeah.
And social engineering is crazy to think about. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, man. The filter is here.
Yeah. This is
a thing for that like bothers me a lot. Is there's a lot of people on the timeline that are like, we need a cleansing fire, we need to get rid of this, and it's like,
you're in one.
You understand? Yeah,
you're in
it's
one.
happening.
Like you're in
it's
one.
happening.
Well,
like,
the left has their version of Millions Must Die too, but it's like after the revolution sort of thing. So
although in a sense, it's like we actually starve ourselves. Oh, we've called. I love those photos from what was that autonomous zone they set up in fucking like Cleveland or some
Chaz.
shit?
Yeah,
the Chaz,
Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone or whatever. It was in Portland, right?
Well, this is the thing, and I know, like in our circles, like even the best of us can occasionally be portrayed as memes, right? And I know, like with my handle, Iron Agriculture is like a lot of people don't know is that I'm actually a farmer, right? Like I actually, run livestock with my father, and I've grown crops for many years. Like I actually know how to farm, right? And seeing like these leftoid vegans like fucking put up like spinach plants in a fucking park. It's just like we're gonna feed the autonomous zone. It's like wow. Yeah. In the real world, the whenever communists win, I dare say, like they kill the kulaks and then they starve. It's like, oh, so you've won and now you're gonna kill yourselves by starvation.
Did they have one in Berlin? They had one in Berlin and interwar Germany, but then the Free Corps like got like
Bavaria.
They
set up a provisional communist government in Munich, which the Free Corps like literally just BTFO'd. Although
Rosa Luxemburg floating in a river Groiper.
but that was in Berlin because the center of the Spartacus uprising, because obviously the intellectual center was in Berlin. That's where like Rosa Luxemburg was, and Karl Liebknecht and Paul Eisner and all these wonderful Karl Radak, all these wonderful communist types, Bolshevik types, and yes, you can early life most of them, and it correlates.
You even see that with like all of Dostoevsky's writings, where like every sort of like liberal or just like this is the enlightened European man that's come to Russia is just basically like, oh, we all fantasize about our time in the Paris Commune in 1848 and how we like shot at the police. And it's just like these are
rats, like
the stereotypical like, oh, those were the good old days, and I'm just like, you were socialists shooting at cops, but like this is the enlightened man
shooting at cops, eating rats, having orgies. Come on, that's a perfect liberal utopia right there.
Sorry, Prime, I interrupted. What were you saying?
Well, no, I mean, I think this is like interesting because so I've been writing a little bit recently on the importance of kind of living in both the material and the spiritual like planes of existence, and most of the problems that we see are like a rise out of a misbalance or a misunderstanding of like how those two interact. And like as you're talking about this, like it kind of occurs to me that the socialism is basically just forsaking all of like material practicality for just like higher spiritual aspirations. And it sounds all nice and fluffy, but it's not at all like remotely viable, right? And in fact, it becomes kind of malicious and malignant in kind of its manifestation. But this is the other thing too, is we're talking about things that bother each other on the timeline. It's like a lot of people have this perception of material success as kind of a bad thing, right? It's like, oh, don't become a leader. Don't, go out there and try to write a book or, like, oh, how dare you put out merch or, whatever it is, right? And it's like, well, like material success is a pathway to higher spiritual success. Like you have to excel in both of those areas. And I think like that's kind of the problem with the socialists is, right? They're always thinking like, oh, we just need to like kumbaya, create all these circles, the love circle or whatever, and like everything will work out. It's just like, yeah, but you're missing that whole competency level of everything.
Also, there's a psychology to be had. I'm trying to think because I've sort of largely taken a break from streaming. I've done like 3 streams in a week. I can't remember who I said what to who, but I made an allegory a little while back, like a week ago. I'm just trying to think who it was with, and it was this idea that if you look at, say, ancient Rome, we talk about Rome from a standpoint of scholarship, of history, you know, and also Rome's had a massive impact on us, you know, at the cultural level, you know, the fact that we still utilize essentially the same alphabet the Romans use. I mean, hence we call it Latin alphabet. You know, these are people who are in essence a foundation stone of Western civilization writ large. And we could have been talking about any of their peers. Like, you know, if one or two battles had gone differently, we might be talking about the Samnites in the same way we talk about the Romans or the Umbrians or the Etruscans, right? But we don't. We talk about the Romans. And what was their special sauce? And there was sort of like something that drove Romans to succeed, and this idea that you have this, you know, these clusters of 7 little, you know, unremarkable villages in this muddy, swampy confluence in the Tiber that sort of, you know what, let's just like join together and like form a city and just see where this goes. And like, you know, 7 centuries later, they're like a continent spanning empire, you know, starting from nothing. And it's this idea that, you know, what drives them to build a better Rome, like from generation to generation, what urges them to you know, become stronger and to, you know, overcome their enemies and to withstand opposition that comes from within. You know, what makes them, you know, drain the forum and build the forum and, you know, build a Capitoline Hill and to construct a senate and, you know, to rebuild an army over and over again. You know, what is this sort of civilizational spark that exists? Like, that is a nation of builders and founders, right? And thinkers, moreover. And then the socialists are just a case of, okay, well, the Tsar's unpopular. We're going to rebel in the aftermath of this war that the Germans have given us a shellacking. So we're going to inherit all these institutions and infrastructure. How can we just obliterate half our country so we can destroy all our ideological enemies, you know, the bourgeoisie, the kulaks, you know, the aristocracy, etc., and then call our utopian vision of success in the ashes that we have created? That is one of the most egregious and evil things, if you really think about it.
It's a human capital shredder, really.
It is a human capital. Well, it's a human capital shredder. It's also a human spiritual shredder at the same time. And I think people like us who have a perennial orientation can actually see it for what it is. You know, some of the mistakes I think younger people make, or even like boomers who've only half thought of it, will go, "Oh, socialism is a good idea, but doesn't work in practice." Like, no. Egalitarianism is fundamentally shitty. You know, like, the watchwords of the French Revolution, egalitaire, you know, liberty, fraternity, are garbage, and they are wrong.
That's very nice. Now face the wall.
Yeah. You know, like,
well, no, like what Meta was saying, like a lot of socialist movements did try to link themselves towards a lot of like new spiritual revival movements. Like Islam had a thing with socialism, the Tibetans had a thing with it, but it's sort of like never worked because you can't really scale. And I think this is where like the fucking teapot rationalists and people that try to like re-engineer religion, you can't like really scale asceticism towards like a mass. That's never going to work. You sort of need a spiritual hierarchy, or else people like sort of really like use it for alternative purposes that never work. Like Tibetans had this as well before they instantiated a very brutal spiritual form of monarchy, because like people were just going nuts. And like, you know, the Chinese as well had this. So it's like people almost needed this sort of emperor on a different level, you know, or else it just doesn't work. Or else you'll have like some like, you know, certain forms of old believers in Russia that go off to woods and have orgies, and like, you know, it's not gonna work. You know what I mean? So even Islam had this realization before they turned towards very brutal forms of like strongman authoritarianism. I mean, I don't know, because Islam is kind of different, because like in Turkey, for example, you had like a lot of Sufis that had quasi-monastic socialistic forms of living, but that, you know, I mean, then what happened after the Ottoman Empire? So it's like, you know, yeah. So, I mean, plus like nowadays, I think socialism and communism is basically just like a form of spirituality for like very like rootless cosmopolitan secular people. So
it's a spiritual substitution, right? That just is sort of like resting.
The trans thing is also like that, by the way.
Yeah, and it's resting on it's resting on a carriage of ideology, right? It's sort of like repackaged spirituality, but just sort of on an ideological you know, train carriage as it were. But it's an interesting point. And also as well, if you look at these vastly different systems that sort of exist across the planet historically, you know, where you look at like sort of how the Persians practiced religion prior to the
Part
caliphate
Islamization,
conquering them. Yeah. So like the Zoroastrian sort of system whereby there's this integration between like the Shah and the aristocracy, and sort of how this Zoroastrian sort of religion sort of interfaced with that, and it sort of supports this this hierarchy that exists in this society in the same ways that if you go further east, you go to like Japan with the Shintos, and how the Japanese what do you call it? Like the central, essentially the temple complexes are sort of like almost self-governing. If I may use the Russian
was this
term,
during
like,
the shogunate? Yeah.
Well, during the Warring States period, and even prior to the shogunate period, like in the Minamoto Taira period, like prior to the Mongol invasions, right? And they're sort of like semi-autonomous, fiefdoms within the shogunate, within the empire, or within Japanese empire. But at the same time, they sort of support the social structure. They realize the importance of the samurai as a class. They realize the importance of the daimyo, the warlords, as a class, and there's sort of like this self-reciprocating support for hierarchy. And then leftism just wants to like take out all these like support pins and support structures and just like rip them apart, because that's their utopia, is to like destroy these distinctions between classes. But no successful society at scale has functioned without the hierarchy. And spirituality and the class of priests, if we can call them that, like in the Catholic or the Christian context, what we refer to as clergy, have this indispensable part of that. And one thing, being an East Roman historian, I've sort of realized is that the role of the Patriarch of Constantinople with the emperor in Constantinople is actually really interesting. That there's a lot less of this sort of chafing between organizing powers, like temporal powers, like the same way like the Pope would be like, he'd go to the King of France, like, do this or I'll excommunicate you. Like, if your knights don't act this certain way, I'll excommunicate your knights and your barons or whatever, right? Whereas that never happens in Constantinople. There's actually this sort of self-reciprocating system whereby the existence of the patriarch is very dependent on the emperor, but at the same time, the legitimacy of the emperor sitting on the throne depends on the patriarch. So they support each other as like mutually sort of acting hierarchies. And then sort of there's this, you put it quite nicely, Gio, this sort of pseudo religion that sort of, it's an ideology dressed up in a frock that sort of like waltzes in. It's like, oh no, we're just going to wreck all this shit that has literally thousands of years of evidence of working,
well,
across
like even
several different cultures, and it's just nonsense,
We even think in Iran with Ayatollah Khomeini, like he really, I shouldn't say too much considering, but he kind of was a visionary because he knew about Zoroastrianism, and I think he had to like become
most intelligent Iranians do, by the way.
Like,
it's part of the identity, right?
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like he had to sort of become a heretical figure in Islam by declaring himself an ullah, or what do they call it? The supreme religious authority.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, like he had to become a heretical figure because he knew that Iran could be organized on a way that seemed like socialistic equality, but with him at the head, and like a different way of doing revolution than the French Revolution. And so at that time, like he was very perceptive as to what Iran really needed. And of course, hundreds of thousands of people died after, but like, okay, whatever. But like it's
the collateral damage of revolution, right?
Exactly. Well, because of Iran, Iraq as well. But like he knew, like, I think he instinctively knew the powers he was up against. And so nowadays, I mean, this is why I think Iran will be more important in the future than we like to think, because people like these NGOs, they like to say that, well, they're fundamentally corrupt and the Revolutionary Guard is like, it's bullshit. But it's like, you have to realize, like, the American Empire, they hire people, like there's a whole apparatus of people. There's a whole network of people that exist in these countries that are enemies of the regime that just exist to create disinformation about the, so I think that Iran, like, they're going to be more powerful, not materially, but like they will be more important in the future than we'd like to think, especially because they're linking it with the Chinese.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think this era that's between, say, the fall of the Shah in the late 70s and now has been sort of like an aberration, because and to some degree you could say the same. I don't know necessarily if Erdogan is the right man to lead Turkey, like in the long term. I think what he has done, he's done a good job. Not that I like the man specifically, but I think he's done from an analytical context, he's done a good job to sort of like strengthen the state, as it were. Like the Turkish
yeah.
state, to orientate it in a direction that is more. Like put it this way, I think Ankara will choose this direction with far more confidence. It did or does post Erdogan than it did pre-Erdogan, if you get what I mean. You know, like there's a whole cadre of people now who have a very good idea of where they want to see Turkey in the 21st century and beyond. Whereas I don't think that idea was so set in stone prior to him taking power.
Well, really, since like the fall of the Ottoman Empire, Erdogan has restored some sense of Turkey actually being a power player, which is huge, right? Like, I mean, not to go down like the whole third world. It's like, you know, oh, see, the G is done. It's over, bro. It's gonna be. And here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about the whole multipolarity thesis is that like you have to like look at this with clear eyes. You can't like just be like an unironic Duganist or whatever, because it really is like those people, they have their own interests in mind, and they're not going to be like a fun-loving. Like I started this stream with like the BRIC nations and the multipolarity. They're not going to be like this fun-loving, egalitarian, like we're going to share power. Like that's bullshit. Like that's not going to happen.
Like no strumming a guitar, singing Kumbaya in the corner kind of thing. Like it's not. That's not like down, you know.
You have to think of these things realistically. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Because there's people like there's a lot of callers that like on Twitter that will post about this shit, like fucking Jackson Hinkle. It's like that's not going to work in real life. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Jackson Hinkle will take the Spencer pill. He'll become like an Azov stan. Like, now that his Russian life,
all it takes is getting dumped by like a Russian asset, and all of a sudden, you know, you're pro NATO.
Exactly.
I'd go crazy too if Nina Byzantina dumped me. I mean, come on, man. Like, I would go nuts too.
I like how you have the TV as the face reaction.
Well,
it's really good.
You know, my thing died. I think like I'm still having some trouble like with it running like continuously or something like that. Or
you have to pour more thousands of dollars in your VR rig. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, actually, and if you want to get the hands moving, you actually you have to get like another piece of hardware. But I built my own computer like a while back, a number of years ago, and so it's getting old, and it like has these like little like power glitches, and every time it glitches out, like kind of messes with the camera, and so I don't know. I need to get more of those.
Do it like on Twitch? Is that how they just have these like very expensive rigs? Because like I remember when I was in Break the Rules, there was this guy that came on, this Red Panda guy, and he like had the full thing where he could move his hands, and it was a red panda, but like, but I wonder these anime ones. I wonder, like, they must have some sophisticated rigs. I mean,
so you just the camera alone will do the face and will do the emotions, like, and then if you want to do the hands, though, you have to get this. It's like a bar, and you can clip it to like your shirt. They use it for VR headsets. If you like clip it to the front of the headset, it'll then look at, you'll be able to see your hands in VR.
Oh, shit.
Right. And so then you can manipulate stuff in VR with like, you know, the full range of motion with your hands, which is nice. But
film yourself doing physical puppetry.
I mean, this is the problem though, right? Is like if you want to stay a non, but you also want to get that body language and all of that other stuff in there, it's really hard if you're just kind of a face or an icon, right? So what is that middle ground? And especially if we want to break outside of just Twitter, like I think you guys do a great job of like being on YouTube, and I think that's a very good space. Oh, by the way, real quick on YouTube Shorts, uncheck the send to subscriber. Because the crazy thing about that is if you have old subscribers or people who aren't interacting with it, the algorithm looks at that and says, oh, people aren't really interacting with this. But if you uncheck the send to subscriber, it only sends it to live active users. And so your shorts are just getting to show to people who aren't subscribed to your channel who are active. So it's like a beautiful little hack.
Where is that setting at?
It's when you do the short, then you go to the
check.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good to know.
Yeah.
I don't really do them, but I might have to for the sake of gaming.
I want to do a bunch of them when I'm done writing. Yeah, I'm gonna do some like every day.
Muppets version of the DR one. See, like actually one of the people that I like in sort of he's in more of the EFAP sphere, but like the Voxus Productions guy, he's got the Professor Tosspot, and he does his whole thing is puppets. Like he does his movie and TV show reviews. He's got the character of like the stodgy old like
God.
white male racist professor puppet, and I think it's pretty good production value. And I think that if you're a
There's
guy
tit streamers on Twitch that do the puppet show thing. It's some kink, you know.
no,
No.
that can go. That can die. But like, someone who does the work to do like the puppetry and to have the characters and the voices, like I don't know, there's something good about like people who know how to do that. Like it's an older art form. There's Lord knows who replaces Jeff Dunham, right, with the ventriloquist stuff and the dummies. But like I think that there's a quality to that kind of. No one does it anymore, right? We all just like talking to a camera and streaming like this, right? Is the big issue where like, your effort that you put into it and the content you get out of it, like is one for one. Whereas someone doing hours of like blocking and the voice work or doing an essay to turn it into a video, like that is, it's like a 3-to-1, 3 hours for 1 hour of content. That's a lot of work. Whereas this is like super easy to do. And this is why I really want to stream less in 2024 going forward.
So guys, do we want to talk
about a mix? Real quick, sorry to jump in on this,
problem,
but I think Prudentialist is like bringing up a really good point, right? Which is how, like, what is the content creation pipeline? What does it look like? How do we go about it? Like, what platforms do you use? Do you stream a lot? Do you create video? Right? It's very complicated, but one of the ways I think about it is you have to have some sort of like way of interacting with your audience, with touching base and like connecting and having conversations. And I think it's what I love about your guys' show here that you got going on is you're like very active with comments. You'll pull up, the funny ones up, right? Like you're interacting with the audience.
Chad is the third co-host.
Yeah.
It's the third main character.
Yeah. And so like, when you're saying like, oh, I'm going to stream less, I'm like, kind of, no, don't do that. Because
the problem, however, and because some people say,
we'll still have DA, but he means
the DA will happen. But I mean, like, they'll say like long form content is dead. The problem is that with YouTube, if you do one more than the other, you're algorithmically punished when you do the other. So, for instance, like the shows that I do, or the show I did yesterday covering the issue in the Red Sea. And for this talking about like Iranian power, Maersk just put out a statement saying they're still going to go around Africa until mid-February. They do not expect the blockade or this conflict to end until February. So that's kind of an interesting timeline they've got going. But the problem, however, is that like if I wanted to do a video essay, and I still think that the essay is important because when I said this on another show, ironically another live stream, lo and behold, but the problem is that we can say, oh, look back at our record when we said X, Y, and Z about whatever issue. So like the Ocean Gate submarine that imploded instantly, right? Everyone had their takes on it. Like perhaps my take on that issue, 6-8 months later, may have been like totally bad or may have aged poorly or whatever, in the same way that like maybe our commentary on like Chris Rufo's strategy with Claudine Gay and plagiarism, maybe our takes have aged badly on that. We won't know until like 6 months or whatever. And the live stream can act as your record, like your hot takes, stream of consciousness, literally. But I mean, the essay and the more fleshed out stuff, I think, is still vital to keep with you because those thoughts are complete. Those thoughts are fleshed out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thesis that you're putting out there to defend. And unfortunately, like if you do one more than the other, so in this instance, the streaming gets rewarded, and YouTube algorithmically, I think, is encouraging streamers more and more, especially as Twitch is dying. So they're trying to get more people in. This is why shorts are a big deal because they have to compete with TikTok. But if you try and do both, it's sort of like the one can't serve two masters. Like one can't be a streamer and a video essayist, and so one gets punished algorithmically while the other one gets promoted. So like the Digital Archipelago, for instance, is a popular show when bam, within like 12 hours the show's got like 2,000 views, and on Libsyn it's got like over 300 downloads. Like that's pretty good numbers. But like you do that for a video essay or a single like one-man stream that's like pre-recorded and you put it out there, it doesn't do nearly as well. And people want to listen to the streaming content, I've noticed, because there's that parasocial aspect of sitting by the fire and listening in. I was
same with podcasts, yeah.
Well, yeah, and to sort of finish up this thought, yesterday I spent most of my day helping my iconography teacher put up some furniture. She moved to a new place, and then afterwards I stopped by a friend of mine from church. He's a much older man, and he was giving some records away. So I walked away with a crate full of vinyls, but he was just like, he's like, you guys don't understand. And I told him I disagreed with his take. He says, you guys don't understand. When like a Richard Pryor album dropped, like a live recording of one of his stand-up shows, we would all buy a case of beer, go to someone who had a really great stereo system and listen. And it was like being there in person. And I'm like, actually, no, I know exactly what that feels like. I listen to like live streamers and podcasts and content where I can make a cup of coffee and I can go listen to like Patrician TV and Private Sessions talk about like how shitty Starfield is for 3 hours. Like, to me, that's an interesting.
I listened live to the Sargon versus Richard Spencer debate. I remember.
You know, like, right? So I mean, like, you
that's
have
all
this
that history right there.
But I mean, so chat is like in character. We're all sort of there, but I still think in the context of like the intellectual aspect of it, or getting your thoughts in a more fleshed out take, I think, you know, like a tweet's great, but a tweet's only X number of characters if it wants to do well mimetically. But if you want a better argument or a better position, I think the Substack or the video essay is still important to have. And unfortunately, the algorithm punishes you if you do both.
Also, yeah. Also, sorry, sorry, G. I know you want to come in, but just quickly. Also, there's something where text, by and large, is impersonal to a point.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, even like say in my case, you know, like I use my avatar, right? But at least hearing voice and the tonality and the way in which a word is spoken, it does carry with it an emotion that you can't just convey in words. And I think that's important. Yeah, actually, because I said this at the end of Millennial, I also stressing important like morale and, you know, in trying times, you need that sense of community and camaraderie. And I think, you know, when I think of the, you know, even like after we streamed this morning period with Semi and with Mandrill, Mandrill and I jumped on with Charlie and Red Hawk and did the Die Hard movie watch along. And, you know, like, and that stuff really matters because you kind of feel like people coming along with you and you're enjoying experiences together. And I think having that two-way interaction, like you say, the chat is like the third character in the show. It really makes people who I think in varying degrees, we all live in the strife of current year and all that comes with that, right? Which isn't probably a video in itself. You know, these things help us get along. And I've stressed before, like I'm actually quite lucky in my own sense. Like I have a handful of IRL friends who are on the same page. Like I've got segments of my family who are pretty, you know, what we would call base and red pill, right? Like, you know, I've got that support structure in my own life. A vast number of people in our, you know, spheres don't. And having that sense of community and belonging really matters to them. And so we have to take that role seriously. And we should actually give it the deference and respect that it deserves, because
I said that
you know,
at the end of the DA
it's
this
difficult.
week.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you said the same thing, Gio. So, you know, we're on the same page, obviously. But what we're saying is that we should not lose sight of the importance of that. It really, really does matter.
Oh, yeah. No, but that's what I mean. I noticed on Twitter, like long posts actually do have, maybe it's just Elon Musk wants people to read blogs, but like I noticed long posts do get more interaction than even just casual tweeting. I didn't expect like my long post about the history of that archetype of internet fedora tipper dweller to like breach containment, because I guess because like it was such a forced meme, that fucking guy with the earpiece and the, you know what I'm talking about, the guy.
He looked like something out of 2006, and I was like, "What?
I reject your premise." Like,
I reject your premise. Like, what is this? Like Jamie, you know, what is this? What is this Jamie Heineman MythBuster shit?
Yeah.
I reject your reality, and I substitute with my own. I'm like, oh,
I said that in my, I said that in my stream.
Fight the curb. Fight the curb.
Yeah.
You know
what's funny is that they both, back in the day, they used to go to those atheist conventions. And now Jamie Heineman has an F2M son. No, not Jamie Hyman. Adam Savage has an F2M son. Yeah. So,
yeah, but kind of like 2 points. So one,
yeah, go for
I
it.
absolutely agree with the whole idea that, you know, long form content is necessary. Like when I'm writing, I find that it helps develop my ideas on that so much more. You know, it's so much more articulated, and it kind of clicks together. You're shaping the structure of the idea, and you're really like stress testing it. And I've actually like come to some really interesting insights working on papers, not like any outside information. It's just the process of writing can be really, really inspirational.
People love
and
short attention
insightful.
span slop, though. They love that. It's like that's
Well, and I agree with, like, you know, I guess the way I see it is you need that kind of chance to do like live stuff, interact with the audience, have that quick feedback loop, but then you also need that kind of opportunity to go out, go into your art cave or, whatever, your writing cave, and, really dedicate yourself to flushing out an idea and putting it out there. And then the other thing too, and this is something that I hope gets better with Twitter or with X, because X, it lends itself to this constant like cycle of like content creation. You're constantly trying to pump out stuff. But then that quickly gets kind of washed away. Right. And one of the problems that I have is like I've reached like a lot of the key points that I've wanted to make. I've made like a few enough times that I feel like it's weird if I'm repeating them. If I'm weird if I'm repeating that, like, an awakening is not an opportunity to go out and fight the system, but an opportunity. You should live not in opposition to evil, but pursuit of good. Right. Like I talk about that idea. It was like a fundamental idea for me. But I feel like, it's something that if you don't, you got to kind of keep saying it, but it feels weird to keep saying it because you're already tuned into that channel, right? It's like playing the same episode over and over again. So there's this weird middle ground, but I do think that the long form content and the live content, really what it comes down is you need to be intentional with each. That the long, the creating content with intentionality, going and writing or creating a video essay, I think that is really healthy when you're kind of exploring an idea, you're articulating an idea, you think it's a really essential idea to get across. The live stream is more of like tapping into the zeitgeist, understanding what people think about, getting feedback for your ideas,
it's
playing
a
off
workshop
other
of
people.
ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Geo, your shirts are not slop; they're cognitive treats. Oh, thank you, Rex.
Well, I mean, that's a big reason why I do the fishing videos, the real talks, because like if I have an idea that I don't want to take the time, and it's me being lazy, but at the same time I kind of appreciate it because I can, if I wanted to, I could take the audio of that, transcribe it, and then flush it out further. Which the Substack transcription tool is so great because it's basically dragging speech to text, where you can put audio in, it'll transcribe it really like excellent, like it's really good. And then I can just copy paste that and put that and work on an essay. And I've done that quite a few times. That's why like half my drafts on Substack are just like audio recording with transcript.
Yeah.
Have you checked out Descript?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. All right. This is going to change your life. So Descript, you basically drop an audio in, an audio file or a video file, and it will create a transcript. And then as you edit the transcript, it'll edit the audio or the video file. So I use this all the time for the content that I create, right? Because usually it's a huge pain in the butt. If you're trying to edit audio, you have to kind of like clip the wave, the wave function or whatever it is.
Yeah.
In this case, yeah. And you can move things around.
Real pain in the ass.
Yeah. So yeah, if you
editing.
Yeah, if you like the Substack transcript thing, like you'll absolutely love the Descript thing. And they're starting to marry it with AI, so you can like search very quickly and you can say, hey, write a summary of this, or write like that thing where people say like different like timestamps for different topics and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's only like $10-$20 so like a month. So it's like the amount of time it's saving you, you're like, yes, definitely, I will happily pay for that
Substack thing, because I use the Google Doc sometimes to speak, but that's kind of like not as intuitive. So interesting. But
interesting. Yeah, no, I and that's why, again, like that's why I do the whole the fishing videos, because of like if there's an idea that in a conversation, and someone had mentioned it earlier in here where they said what's the word I'm looking for, I'm gonna have to scroll up in chat, where it was talking about like a lot of realizations come through messy dialogue. And that's very true. Like there are very good points that will happen on the show because of messy dialogue or us like talking over one another. Yeah, there it is. It's from Twitter. Telephone sanitizer. Best realizations are often seated in messy dialogue. But that's very true. And so sometimes when I listen to, like, if I listen to a Morgoth essay or something happens on the show and I think that it's worth talking about, I mean, like, all right, I'm going to go fishing and I'm going to think about this while I'm casting a line. And then I'll go back after getting, 30, 40, 50, 2 hours of footage to cut through. Maybe sometimes I catch something, sometimes I don't. And then I'll just rant for like 20 minutes or less, and I'll cut it up and to see what works into a good point. And I mean, and it's good, but I also feel lazy because I'm just like, this is just a 20, 15 minute rant into the microphone.
That's what I do.
And
I got to do more of those, like the 20 to 20 minute videos. I notice the algorithm does like, so.
So and again, Marbley's got a point. We're tangent generation conversations, and there are tangents we go on. I like to take them all into the fishing stuff because one, I can take advantage of the geography, but also it is a hobby I truly love doing, and and it's good. Those are ways in that you can get it out there and to do it. So I don't know. I still think there's still the essay. There's something about it. There's something about like the old 2017 like right-wing vlog that I'm just like, bring it back, come home.
The Dave special,
the old millennial woes, the video essay. Come home.
I never got the video essays because it's like just release the essay and like to me video. Like you were saying, like rapping for 20 minutes.
You have Blogger and Blogspot. I mean, now with Substack you can, and that's why like Dave does that and Morgoth does that. Like now you can, but like back then, it was a little different. And it was like a treat.
That's what I want to do when I have more time next year is to do those painting videos again, where I just film myself painting and then have like dialogue, kind of like what your fishing videos are, Prude. But like some YouTubers do that, but they more talk about art and painting. But gentlemen, let's dive into the coal mine.
The coal mine.
Yes. Let's
no coal today.
What do you guys think about Trump and a potential Nimrata Haley fusion?
Fusion
cuisine.
Best Tex-Mex tweet on this.
Yeah, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. I think that's totally just the news trying to like stir things up, and it was surprising to me the number of people that like just swallowed that hook, line, and sinker because I was expecting people to see right through that. Yeah. There's just a lot of people complaining about it on the timeline. I'm I don't normally weigh in on politics, but here we go. Got to do it.
And Nimrod Haley, really? No. I mean, I know he wants to do the whole like white VP thing, and see, this is I do not endorse adultery. I do not endorse a lot of things, but like Corey Lewandowski just like sleeping with all these like potential Trump VP picks is an American hero. Because it means less neocon.
He really is a BWC clear out, eh?
Yeah, he's a BWC capo that's like serving the Trump administration, even while he doesn't work for it. So like I don't want these people to be VP. I don't like. Come on, like do something.
I like the schizo Cuban retake that they'll make Trump. They'll make him pick Nimrata as the running mate, and that's how they're gonna like, they're gonna get rid of Trump.
That's how they'll unpick his administration, essentially, right?
Yeah. They'll do a John Paul I to Trump. They'll give him some heart attack pill, and make Nimrata Haley the president.
He should just get Tucker Carlson to be his VP. I think that would be the best timeline.
Yeah, but it would be too obvious. I think. I don't know. That would be.
What?
Were you gonna say
what do you mean too obvious?
Well, it would just be too like. It would be too much of a fantasy play, but it could work. But I think
it's too awesome. That's the problem with it. Oh, come on.
No, I mean like, I think like he would need because like here's the thing: when Trump picked Pence, his gambling was that he could pick someone with Washington experience, and it would balance.
Sure,
that didn't work.
And to soften his image a bit too.
Oh yeah, that's
like a family guy and he's subdued.
Pence was totally done to help win the Midwest, but to secure the right-wing evangelical vote. And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked
till it didn't work.
Until it didn't work. You gotta get Tucker on.
Yeah, you always got to be playing the long game.
It'd be a great win. That'd be great. Tucker, come on.
But I guess like the problem with Tucker is because Trump would need somebody with but then I don't know, like does he really need a Washington insider again? So yeah, maybe I don't know.
I think honest to God, I don't think you want Tucker's VP. You want Tucker as like your press secretary or outdoing what he's already doing. Like you can hate him or love him. I mean, Tucker Carlson alongside Vivek Ramaswamy have done the greatest work for Trump's like campaign than anyone else has.
I was going to say having Tucker and Vivek as your two press secretaries would be
And this whole thesis about like they're going to put the woke away to get Biden elected. That's no, because you see the woke tards, they'll hold their nose and vote for Biden anyways,
as they do every election. Like we want democratic socialism, we want Medicare for all. But if you're a good socialist, you vote for Joseph Robert Biden Sr.
Yeah, I was lurking some leftoid circles. They were debating this, and they're like, "Oh, because like, listen, one one account just dropped it this way. I forget which one. Some left-wing caller with like the black flag in the bio. Like, listen, if we don't elect Joe Biden, there's gonna be a trans genocide. So you better do it. Just hold your nose. And it's like that's the line they're throwing down. So Biden is not going to put the woke away. They're not going to soothe the woke away. They're not going to tuck the woke away into bed. No, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
They're not gonna make the woke a hot chocolate and get its Ugg boots and carry it off to its room.
Millennial Ugg boots. Yeah.
They're not gonna tuck you into bed.
Those Ugg boots stunk, man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Did you own a pair, Gio, or you?
No. I mean, like millennial white girls with like SSRIs, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Well, I'm gonna.
Sorry, just because someone's commented, it's like Oren wins a cigar. I have to say, having watched this Oren AA thing from not afar, because obviously we're all in like the same circles, but sort of not being involved in that bet, as it were, but sort of being a step away from it. There are convincing like points that they both raise, and it's like, oh, which is actually going to prevail here? Like, you know, one week you sort of think, oh, that's it, the woke's done, the woke's going to just get put in the can, right? And it's like, oh, actually, the woke are ascendant here, and they're going to, you know, they might actually pull up Trump's here. It's kind of interesting how both guys have got very, very cogent, reasons for believing what they do. I think it's going to be interesting to see which of those two play out in the next sort of 18 months, 2 years leading up to the election. And also, of course, let's not forget the reaction immediately after the election. I mean, you know, Trump won in 2016, then, you know, beginning 2017, there was the pussy march through Washington with those stupid pink hats. And then, you know, that manifests into like eventually BLM. You know, it's just weird shit happens.
I would just prefer Eric Prince as king of
came
America. Just king of America. I'm okay with that. Give me a warrior philosopher king.
Yeah.
No, but it's Eric Prince is like the leftist, like the Chomskyite irony cell. Like that would be like their Pol Pot year zero. You know what I mean? Like they dread that. Like that to them, that's like worse than the Austrian painter getting elected because of all of the like post Iraq war, like leftist media, you know what I mean? Like it's like when Kissinger died, they had the gloat takes.
Good.
It's good. It's like Good. Eric Prince.
I want to live in their nightmares. Like I'm sorry. Like I see them like just wig out on Twitter, and they're just so like, this is the end of the world. Republicans are so evil, and it's just like I wish that world was real.
Yeah.
Like but if that world was real, I don't think I'd be a right winger. You know, like I'd just be a normal person. You know, I mean, I am a normal person, but it's just like I wouldn't be so like, you know, maybe as animated on politics as I am as a white male, where it's just like, oh, you know, like we have this evil right-wing racist in charge of the White House. And it's just like, well, sounds like I'm going to go to work and it's going to be morning in America again. You know, like it's something I wouldn't be so like defending or animated about.
No, but that's what I mean. Like is Eric Prince, like he basically, he found an exploit. He found an exploit and he just profited off an evil system when the system needed him. As
all people should, you know. Like
exactly.
If you're an entrepreneur and the system sucks, like, can you exploit it? Can you make money out of it?
Like, I mean, Donald Rumsfeld wanted to run war like it was a business, and Eric Prince is like, yeah, you know what, war is a business.
Yeah,
so
Blackwater, here we go. You know, it's like all those like "shut your goofy ass up" memes, and then someone else does like, you know, "shut your goofy ass up," Don Rumsfeld is like, you know, you're gonna surf in Blackwater. Yes, Eric Prince. God bless Black Rifle Coffee Company. You know, it'll be great.
Eric Prince is way more of a Nietzschean than Andrew Tate when you really think about it.
Oh, of course.
That's what I mean. Like
Eric Prince has probably killed more people than Andrew Tate has pimped. So I mean, like,
that's true.
But before these keep piling up, I am going to go through the super chats and then
Nimrod Haley.
Nimrod Haley. Although that's a biblical insult, and that's the thing is that Nimrod was actually a mighty hunter, and Nimrod Haley is just a war hawk that's never killed anybody.
I think it means something in Sanskrit, different in Sanskrit, though.
You know, I wonder what that means.
I have to look it up.
I am right now.
You think Corey Lewandowski is going to sacrifice his BWC to
Nimrata, meaning it's in Hindi. Means humble or modest.
Whoa. That's like naming your daughter Chastity and she becomes a stripper. It's like
it's like, oh, these are my daughters, Faith, Hope, and Love, and they all have OnlyFans, and you're just like you know, you named your children after like these like great martyrs, and it's just like now they're all whores. Good lord, it's so depressing.
Geo, it's like imagine what was the word used, like Chastity Angel filmography 1257 entries.
Chastity Angel, Brandy, Jasmine, yeah.
Yeah.
You notice a lot of like a lot of M2Fs, they all have stripper names, or they have like it's always like Lilith, Evelyn, Willow.
Yeah.
Maybe
I know that Lilith has like the Judaic, like
yeah.
Adam's first wife mythology, but like I hear Lilith and I just think of BB Newworth from not or however her name was from Frasier and Cheers is like Frasier's ex-wife who is just like so cold and spindly. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But we're gonna go through the supers real quick as they're
wasn't it Niles' wife in Frasier?
No, Niles' wife in Frasier was Maris. Though we never saw
right.
her.
Maris,
that was the running gag because they did the same
and she's
gag
like a bitch anyway. Yeah.
Back in Cheers with that we never saw Norm's wife.
Yes, that's right.
That was the reference. And they kept the gag going.
True. Yeah.
Although I think eventually we see her.
We do like towards the end of the show.
Towards the end of the show because she gets a job at like his favorite like fast food joint. Anyways, I know way too much about 80s and 90s TV to give this all away.
Yeah, Norm was pretty longhouse though when you think about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would escape every day to go to the bar.
Who was his best friend, the mailman? What was
Cliff Clavin, played by John Ratzenberger, who would just see, like, the Cliff Clavin of Cheers would make an excellent, like, Twitter schizo shit poster, because he would say something totally, the Dolphins have an alphabet, and then, like, half of, like, esoteric right-wing Twitter would be like, he's right, and it'd be...
It's like Jimmy on Fish Tank. I hope Jimmy wins.
Oh, we have obligatory Fish Tank reference. Thank you, Gio.
Oh God! Look at he's got the Fish Tank switch.
Love it.
The one where he's like, I may talk about Fish Tank.
You are allowed to have 30 avatars on StreamYard, and I have 30 avatars to react to all sorts of things. It's fantastic.
We should just I'll teach you how to use OBS, because you just run everything through OBS, and then you get a Elgato Stream Deck, and then you can just
do everything.
I use OBS to stream video games. That's what I do.
There you go. You just need to have like one of the buttons on your StreamYard open up the file that has like all of your GIFs on it. And then basically the way I have it set up is I have like a bunch of like emojis. And so like each emoji is it's like a file for whatever it is. So I click like the clapping emoji, and then like I have all like my clapping GIFs, and so they're like easy access.
Oh, another thing, Prude, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but you remember that quote I read from the Eflux commentary section that had Nick Land in it?
Yeah.
I think it was from Pachika Reed. She was referring to this program called Liquid Feedback. You ever heard about this?
No, I'm going to go.
It's like this liquid democracy idea where it's like this computer program that like, it's like a direct democracy thing where it's like it teaches people
the
like
democracy software.
Yeah, they can like vote democratically, have proper information. It's like again, I'm skeptical because it's like the AI program giving people quote unquote
user-driven, self-organized process. Every member can start an initiative. Quantified constructive feedback, support suggestions, implementation assessment. Initiators decide about implementation. No fundamental opposition within an initiative. Every member can start an alternative initiative. Alternative initiatives define the issue are voted upon together using clone-proof Schwartz sequential dropping, the Schulz method, to allow different values for timings and supporter quorums, to allow the possibility of supermajority requirements for certain decisions. Liquid feedback allows its users to have so-called policies on different kinds of decisions. Results can be used for information, suggestion, directive, or as binding decisions, depending on the organizational need and the national legislation. When was this introduced? Back in
early 2010s.
See here, yeah.
Or no, I think like there was a program that was similar to it in like back in the 90s when the whole like direct liquid democracy thing was first invented.
I mean, it's from the Pirate Party in Berlin was the first political party to utilize the platform in January 2010 for a state party conference. The software was first published in 2009. Interesting stuff. That's something that you don't see people talk about anymore either, is sort of like piracy parties.
Yeah, nobody talks about like direct democracy or like voting online or this like program that can like give voters the correct information, and then they could like have a supermajority and they could create their own initiatives. Like that's all bullshit nowadays. Like you don't see libtards talking about this very much. And I think like that possibility of marrying the internet with direct democracy, like that's sort of a possibility that's gone by us and
Yeah.
I wonder why like libs don't talk about this stuff anymore. Maybe because they know that like power works in an inherent way.
Because I think that techno optimism is they lost it, right? Like the sort of like liberal optimism of like we can use technology to subvert the system, and it's the same thing about, well, like that is your system.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's right, Nikki. You remember the luxury communism craze around 2015? Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean,
turns out, automated gay space luxury communism means that like you can trans yourself in space, and they can't even get that.
Yeah, but I think like just the idea of like a technological process creating like a perfect utilitarian mechanism, like that's sort of that's not a thing anymore.
They got burned by 4chan. Oh, there's some truth there. Like the meme war did a lot to these people. But I'm going to go through the entropy super chats first.
The green text remains undefeated, right?
It really does. It really does. So Akamak for $25 US says, happy birthday. Well, thank you so much. Gio and I are celebrating our birthdays today. Generico for $5 US. He says, happy birthday, Prude. Merry Christmas to kinsmen everywhere. True. Merry Christmas to all. Sam153 for $30 United States.
$30.
I can't escape it, even on my own channel.
I love it, Gio. I love it every time.
It needs to be. See, this is the thing. Mr. D needs to clip it so he can use it on AA show to just annoy the shit out of academic.
Like every denomination and every currency, just like
every currency.
$30 Canadian dollars.
You just need
30 Canadian dollars.
You just need it on a soundboard, and Mr. D could play it. It'd be so good.
Oh, he would just like go nuts.
When if the show ever dies, I'll just have all these things clipped so I can play it every time. You can be like the dono alert thing.
Or you just get like an AI voice thing and just automatically reads it, a little triggered animation.
Yeah, from fucking
I buy that for $1. Yeah,
that would be the case.
I know that reference because Ghost from True Capitalist Radio did that.
Because there's a guy called Mr. D's Bit of Rough. That's pretty funny. But going down the line, but he says, happy birthday cheers to Matt and Gio. Also, Merry Christmas, indeed. So, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I said, you really, as you get older, the more you appreciate what your parents did to sort of separate the holidays from your birthday. And my parents did a very good job of that, and that makes me very happy. Garfellow Roosevelt for $3 US says, happy birthday. I was also laughing this morning because I saw that Merritt's ship Go Through the Canal had a rainbow shipping container. No wonder why the Houthis are shooting at them. Everyone makes the Houthi thing, like this great mystery, but it's just like they did publish their demands, and the Associated Press reported their demands, and and the shipping container guys are like, well, we don't think Israel's going to be done with this war till February, so I guess we're going to go around the canal. It's like the whole you go around the horn like God intended, and it's just like, well, I guess there's the Muslims are doing that for you.
And there's a conversation somewhere in Sana, and it's like, no, Hassan, listen, Hassan, if it has a gay flag on the ship, we have to hit it with a missile.
So maybe the Somali pirates can attenuate all those cargo ships now.
Oh man,
we're gonna have a feast. So
yeah, but I'd be remiss to mention. So I did a finance podcast with our good mutual friend Stormy Waters or Norman Dodd New, and his prediction is that world trade is going to fall apart over the next couple of years. Participate. Yeah. Well, so he says, production is going to come back to the States. You're going to see, I think he says $150 a barrel oil by the end of next summer, with the European going through a sovereign debt crisis. So, I mean, it's hard to, believe in such outlandish claims, but when you see stuff like this happening on the world stage, you're like, there might be something to it. So,
well, I think Semi got
stuff that was I was just gonna say, like, stuff that was inconceivable like 5-10 years ago. Like, we couldn't have imagined it like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jay.
No, but I think like Semi God pointed that out in the stream with Prude last night. Like, the Chinese are kind of fucked if they don't ameliorate the situation in terms of global trade, because they need these routes. So
yeah. But I don't disagree, but I countered that point on stream, Gio, by saying that for the Chinese, if it means knocking the West off their perch, will the Chinese take a small L to inflict a big L on us? Because in the end, this will cripple us, and for China, it's a blip.
Well, that's what I mean.
That's my
like,
take.
When you really think about it, Israel is like such a massive geopolitical liability for the American empire that it still persists in power is kind of miraculous. That's why, like, that was such a dumb shit point that Vaush said once, where he's like, the Israelis kind of don't have any power, but it's like we give them power. It's like, fuck you, bro. Like, you don't know anything, man. Like, anyway, no, but my point being is
I think Vaush knows that's the point, really.
Yeah,
it's him hiding his power level, exactly.
Because when you think about it in pure, raw, realpolitik, geopolitical terms, even like Kissinger saw that, the Israelis are kind of like a massive liability by trying to genocide the Palestinians. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to like stop in February after they killed. Maybe they're going to rack up the body count to like 30,000, 40,000. Like how much? How much is enough? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, man.
I think of the perennial meme out of what's the West Wing. What is the value of a proportional response? And I guess Israel's having that debate right now to some extent. I mean,
yeah,
I think that this goes back though to what to go back to Meta and Stormy's point. Like this goes back to a lot of talk from like even the Council of Foreign Relations, and like people should read their publications because like you should always know what like the elite think tanks are thinking. And they're basically saying like this is what deglobalization is about. Like you're going to see a reduction in global trade. Trade will become much more regionalized, and Western countries are going to try and play the catch-up game, and it's going to cost them a lot of money to reindustrialize at home. And I mean, like even like people that can sometimes be lolcows, like Peter Zeihan, right? They're like, Biden is trying to do what Trump is doing with the whole reshoring bit. I mean, like McKinsey and other companies are like, listen, you have a huge human capital problem. You don't have like the tech or the expertise to do it. So you're going to do it a lot slower. So, I mean, like, yeah, this is only going to accelerate like a really ugly sort of like malaise that's going to hit the West, especially the U.S.
Imagine the billions it would cost someone like Jeff Bezos to retool American factories.
Well, I know exactly. Like getting fabrication plants up, like we have to bring in outsiders who have industry to like tell us how to do it when we used to be one of the most industrial nations on the planet. And I mean, that's a pretty damning indictment of how bad things are going to get. So, I mean, I imagine it will. I think that Stormy's got a very good point. It's very true.
Well, to convert like 10% of distribution centers into manufacturing centers for Amazon, that would cost multiple billions of dollars. But anyways, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that, the other thing too is that, and this is where people like us particularly shouldn't be disappointed. I mean, yes, it'll affect us in our daily lives and our families and the hip pocket. I mean, we shouldn't lose sight of that. But at the same time, in terms of us having a worldview that is, centered on reality and, what is good for ourselves and our in-group and the respective nations we live in, and even for our civilization, right, writ large. And that is that this is a system which has convinced generations of people since the end of World War II that, yes, actually, there is this economic model where we can ship off our industries to third world countries and we can import cheap labor and, we can stuff cheap consumables on our shelves and call it prosperity. And people like us know that that is bullshit, and it's always been bullshit, right? But sorry, I hate to cuss. My apologies, gentlemen. But like it's nonsense, right? And it's degraded us. It's degrade our skill base. It's just degrade our prosperity. It's that in concert with mass immigration has cut down our value of labor to ridiculously reduced levels compared to what our own parents and grandparents experienced, right? And that system has actually done an excellent job in discrediting itself. It has actually shown itself to be a lie by presenting us with a situation where it's like, oh, yes, we actually have to renationalize. We have to tool up again and build our own factories again. We actually have to build our own stuff. Oh, my God, who would have thought? That's an economic system, there's the slight white pill for people like us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Stormy even talks about this in the podcast where he says there's a lot of white pills at the end of the story. I mean, you're going to see inflation go up for the next couple of years, and things are going to be tougher as the world trade, falls apart, and we have to, rebuild the production capacity at home. But, for example, the U.S. has more waterways than the rest of the world combined, right? And with oil going to the price that he predicts it's going to go to, being able to transport things around the country by waterways is going to be huge. Getting the production to come home is going to be huge. We also just have an insane amount of natural resources. Like we don't really touch our own oil or lumber or like any of these other things, but we have an insane amount readily available. I mean, the U.S. created more wealth like during its like high growth period than the rest of all civilizations in the all of humanity past, right? So like the capacity for us to reclaim that kind of birthright, that potential is huge. And especially you're going to see the boomer generation as they kind of die off. A lot of the problems that are happening because of hyperinflation, the supply side hyperinflation or inflation, is they're going to be ameliorated, right? Like we're going to have more homes available. We're going to have, more of these kind of assets. And so, there's a lot of things to look forward to. It's just really key that we get, our team through the next couple of years as everything kind of goes through this monumental shift. And so that's really what that podcast is about. And I got to have Stormy on again. And if you guys ever wanted to have Stormy on, I think he'd love to be on your show too. So just let me know.
Yeah, I'd love to interview the crap out of him for that kind of stuff. Cause like I was listening to what's going on with shipping, and I was listening to Huntsman, the guys over at Fortis Analysis. And it's just like, when they were complaining, saying like there are no merchant marine captains that like work in think tanks or consult with Congress on these issues with logistics and trade. And I'm like, that's intense that, America's, quote, the protector of the global commons of trade. And we have no one like speaking for them. And we're such a land-based kind of like military system. Like that's crazy to think about. And we're going to need people that know how to work waterways. I mean, like, how often do we update our water ports along America's river, like Ohio or the Great Lakes or the Mississippi? Like, I think it's a pretty crazy indictment. And Spurgler Acolyte is like, what is this? Well, we can multi-stream via Twitter and YouTube and all that. Spurgler, Geo and I have a birthday today, so we're just hanging out and having fun. But it's good to see you, Spurgler, and it's fun that StreamYard shows the Twitter comments. It's fantastic. I'm going to carry on. Belial Bradley, the names alliteration. What is that? He says the birthday cupcake fund for $25 US. Well, thank you so much. I will buy a pie for myself.
$25.
It never ends. It never ends.
Oh.
Scribe says for $10 US, he says he doesn't like Fish Tank. He doesn't like Fish Tank. This guy doesn't like Fish Tank over here. See, nobody cares. And then he says in parentheses, happy birthday.
$10.
There you go. There's your fish
tank.
There
you go. The fish tank. Yeah.
Thank you, Spurgler. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Spurgler.
it. Go follow Spurgler Acolyte on Twitter.
I like Spurgler's idea of being paid by the Chinese government to meme Sino-Hegelianism to the population. That's a great that would be a great career for a theory cell. But like I think Spurgler would do it way better than Logo de Atlas. So we'll see what happens.
Many such cases.
Many such
cases. A lot of people can do things better than Logo.
Than Logo?
The nice thing is
probably be a better house husband.
The nice thing is that Spurgler's fucking jacked. So even if Spurgler went to like some CPI con, Spurgler's a good-looking man. Yeah,
I've never seen Spurgler's face docs.
Well, neither have I. But
has he physique doxed?
He's a jacked white male. He's fantastic. So all I can imagine is like even if Spurgler were to go to like one of those CPI conferences on like Logo doing the like weird gay raising hand thing, like Spurgler would just be like ready to go and throw a Roman to express his like desire to join the cause.
Oh,
but like again, like our guides are just better looking and they're great. So
he'll see like the fourth Rome is actually Beijing.
That's good Lord.
Oh.
But Ralt here is very generous. I'm just going through the entropy ones and then YouTube right after. But he sends $50 American. That's very generous.
$50
during this time, during the holidays. Thank you very much. He says, happy birthday. I almost never catch you live, so cheers and Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you, Ralt. That means a lot to me, and your generosity is much appreciated. But now we'll head on over to YouTube. Colin Gotts becomes a channel member, so you guys get to see the video game stuff, the
nice.
Stalin's War series, which will start up again in January early, along with any other stuff I put out early there for channel members, alongside all the Substack stuff I put up. So if I put out a paywall essay, you guys get to read it too via PDF and whatnot. Also, you guys get all the cool frog emojis that you can use in chat, so enjoy. Davasar for $5. He's a great reply guy on Twitter. He's a strong soldier for Geo and I. He says, happy birthday and Merry Christmas. God bless and keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Prince of Parma sending me 76 cents via 14 South African Rand. This has become a running gag, but your financial support is always greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir. Hitman for £5 says, happy birthday and Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. Hitman has some great work on history. Wonderful man. I've done stuff with him covering the history of the Sykes-Picot Treaty on his channel and mine. So if you want to see the history of how like borders and the fucked up history of like the Middle East and the rise of Israel, go watch his stuff. It's some fantastic stuff.
And the post-war settlement. Just
and the
generally
post-war,
speaking,
yeah. I mean,
you know,
he's a great guy.
yeah, because the thing we're doing, actually, we're meant to do part 2 like before the end of the year, but we didn't get around to it. But yeah, Hitman and I are doing Paul Emil von Lettervorbeck's Reminiscences of East Africa. So it's actually quite the story for anyone who is interested, if I may plug it briefly, Prude.
Yeah, go for it.
14,000 Germans and Tanganyika and Askari, you know, by war's end, in which case Letter Vorbeck actually outlasts the German army in the field in Europe. He's being chased around by like 300,000 South Africans, Belgians, and English, and ends up invading Portugal to resupply his army. It's actually quite the story.
Oh my god!
Portuguese Mozambique, yeah. Anyway, we're covering that, so it's a wonderful story. And if anyone wants a book to read, Reminiscences of Africa is a wonderful read.
Interesting. Yeah.
People used to invade whole continents, and nowadays you give money to Twitch thoughts. So, you know, men used by the age of 25 invading whole continents.
Men used to finance like, you know, conquests of continents. Now we give money to whores.
Geo billions.
Yeah,
you are
the power of DWC.
Just billions must.
But if we're gonna shill books, I'm gonna do it as I did the other day. The Civil War and Reconstruction in Alabama by Walter Linwood Fleming. Our good friend Mr. George Bagby has gotten this bad boy back into print. So if you want to own a piece of history on the Civil War and the United States and Reconstruction, go buy book. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. Go follow him at Tall Men Books on Twitter.
I might order that. That looks like quite the tome.
It's quite the tome. And then I'm also reading the New Right Papers by numerous authors, edited by Bob Whitaker. So it's been a good time. But we'll carry on. Retronus, a good follower on Twitter, sends her $2 Australian. Happy birthday, Mr. Prude. Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you too in the land down under. Greatly appreciate it. Generico again, he said it's $5 Canadian. I gotta go. Happy birthday and Merry Christmas, friends. Well, happy birthday to you, Gio, and Merry Christmas to everyone on stream. John Carter, thank you, John. I knew this was coming.
Oh my god!
All right, but everyone gets to play. It's not just me. Sorry, fuckers. You have to suffer too. FMK at age 60. Helen Mirren, Margaret Thatcher, or the late Queen? Enjoy.
First.
Enjoy. You're up first, Gio.
Okay, Mary Thatcher. No. Wait, only 60?
Yeah, you're at age 60.
Marry the Queen. Fuck Helen. Oh, I can't, because then I'll sound like a leftoid if I do that. Let's see. Marry the Queen. Fuck Helen Mirren. Kill Thatcher. You know what? Thatcher's neoliberal. Fuck her. Kill Thatcher. Fuck her.
Good God.
What about those coal miners? Those coal miners.
Revenge for the working class, Gio.
There you go. Exactly.
He's a Corbynista lover, that Gio.
You can fuck Helen Mirren at 60. I mean, that's pretty. You know, she still looks all right.
Just her antibiotic afterwards. Golly. Marry Margaret Thatcher.
Syphilis probably germinates.
I would just marry Margaret Thatcher, try and convince her to change the direction of the country. Who doesn't want to say they screwed royalty? And then you can kill Helen Mirren. There's my answer.
Let's see.
Are you looking up these people at 60?
Age 60.
Geo with the proper research going on here.
Yeah, Geo doing the do not research, but he's doing it for himself. Machiavelli sucks to go for $4.99 says, I never feel old. Well, good. Never feel old until one day you do. But again.
Oh, wait, Metaprime, you do yours, man.
Yeah, you can answer.
Oh, no.
You're on the record now, son. It's too late for you.
Yeah, I really don't know. I guess maybe fuck Helen Mirren, kill the Queen, and marry Margaret Thatcher. I don't know.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I had to be controversial a little bit there. I feel like being able to say you killed royalty. I don't know. That might be better than saying
that does have a power on its own.
Will the real Gavrilo Princip please step up? Like,
yeah.
kills the Archduke, kills the Queen.
Saw the crown in the muck and
Yeah.
he picked it up.
That's it. Oh well, I suppose I might as well join in as well. So I
Yeah,
would,
might as well.
I would marry the Queen. Sorry, hang on, marry. So yeah, marry the Queen, fuck Margaret Thatcher, and kill Helen Mirren because that is like a biohazard. So I'm doing the world a favor.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, saving us from the
Margaret
next
Thatcher
pandemic.
was in bed though. Was she like a lazy bottom?
That stiff upper
Well,
lip.
wasn't it they say like right when we were like other starfish, just like animals, and there's like a no middle ground, you know?
Oh, the pillow princess, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Prince.
But yeah, 99 red pills go by for £5. Says the woke has multiple centers of power and is a generational factor that requires years of power transference before it goes anywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's very true. I don't think you're ever going. It's not going away
Put the
anytime
woke
soon.
away.
You're
Yeah.
not. You can't tuck it into bed lest. I mean, this is why. You know, like, oh, what? Well, someone will just replace Claudine. I said I would rather see Harvard go than to have it come back with someone else. I mean, I think it's good.
They'll pick someone worse than Claudine Gay.
Oh, I'm sure they will. But I mean, like, we have to recover our credibility. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's destroyed. And maybe that's a good thing. And actually, it is a good thing. Let's not kid ourselves. So, wins for all. But that's all of the wonderful donations that y'all have given. This was not meant to be a sort of grifty stream. I hate that word because I feel like I put out good work and materials. This goes back to the conversation over material success. But yeah, I reject the that's how I'm going to answer all of these future John Carter super chats. I reject the premise. I reject the super chat. I might refund him next time he does an FMK super chat, fucker. But you know, Meta Prime, what do you do, and where can people find you?
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity to promote here. So yeah, so my content is largely around white-pilled, practical, optimistic content. Gio was kind enough to have me on his podcast a while back, and I run my own as well. We got to get, you know, you guys, everyone here is welcome to join at some point. The Prudentialist has kindly connected me with a future guest that I'm very much looking forward to having on. Stormy's going to be excited about that.
D.
Oh man,
Oh.
keeps growing. But yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, just at MetaPrime001. I have a website, I have a Substack. And yeah, so a lot of the content's just on how do you navigate through what I call the journey, right? Like I came to Twitter a couple years back and realized we didn't really have a guide for, you know, people going through that awakening process, trying to find like a good foundation in what is natural and true. And so that's a lot of the focus of my content, is helping people orient themselves in what I call the parallel society, while still having one foot in the mainstream delusion. So kind of becoming a master of both worlds, as we were talking about in the Joseph Campbell sense there. So yeah, and I run usually on Sundays I run a space on Twitter. Obviously not going to run it on Christmas Eve this week, but a lot of great ways to interact. But I know I appreciate you guys having me on and to celebrate the passing of another year on the planet.
Oh,
Yeah, another year where death has not gotten us. So it's a great win.
Not today.
Mr. D for $40. They're sitting here.
Hi, Mr. D. How are you?
Happy birthday to you.
Oh,
Happy
no.
birthday to you. Happy birthday, shall we? Okay. How you doing, Brood?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Sorry to join so late, but
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's good to have you here.
More
You
than
joined.
merry, Mr.
You
D.
joined in the
Love
viewer
to hear
count
from you,
jumped
friend.
up, so it all worked out.
Based.
oh, okay. And I see we've got Trio product. Yes, buddy. I can never do it.
$50. No.
I was
$50.
telling Gio that he should take your what's the word?
Oh God, John Carter,
God,
I can't do
God,
that.
I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
actually I'm going right now to
Happy
refund you your money.
birthday, Mr.
right
President.
Right now, I'm going to refund your money. I'm not. No, none of that.
No,
shit.
don't do. I can do it.
No, I'm not making
just
you do
did
it.
it. I
I don't
just
know
did
why
it
we
right
have the dumb, stupid. It's, you know what? Go watch Dave's video on how the super chat killed the alt right, and it'll be a perennial thing about why you
When the
trust it.
co-host
Why you trucks and chat?
I remember one super chat got Lauren Southern to say the 14 words, and she probably is regretting that to like this day. She's probably regretting it.
Golly. I was telling Gio earlier that I said Mr. D should just like get a soundboard of all of Gio's screaming about currency and money and super chats and play it every time and annoy AA with it on unpopular opinions.
I may do that and take a clip. Yes.
For $20.
$20. I mean, to be fair, Gio shouts about everything. So
yes, this is true. I wonder if I totally just tanked Lauren Southern, because now some autist is gonna like go back to that Sargon stream and like find like unearth Lauren Southern saying the 14 words. And
I feel like she's got enough problems as it is these days.
Yeah, that's true. Can you believe she's only 27 years old?
Yeah.
It's
why I don't marry an Australian spook. But anyway, that's a whole nother.
The hard 27 years. Here's my favorite.
27 years.
Sorry.
Oh, she's 28 now. She was born in June.
Oh, there you go.
It's like Laura Loomer, who I thought was like 60, but
she's only like, I believe, 20.
What do you mean? Do you mean six? What did you say, D? 60? Did you mean
Laura
like 16th centuries? They look like they dug her out of like a pharaonic crypt.
She's 60 in dog years.
She's 60 in dog years.
Here's my favorite. Just very briefly. Here's my favorite inadvertent getting someone to read something on a super chat that they didn't understand.
I've had some good burgers in my time. I like a good melted Swiss cheese, roasted mushrooms, and caramelized onions on a burger. That's hot stuff. You can get that at a number of different places. Yeah, I don't. This is some alt-right joke that I'm not getting. Clearly.
Unbelievable.
He didn't know the Richard Spencer caramel.
He didn't know, and of course he loves
burger.
Richard Spencer. He adores Richard Spencer.
I can't believe A is a fan of Big Spence. It's
disgusting.
Well, he's a fan. He's a fan of Richard Spencer when he's not a fan of the Dark Lord. You know, it's like he's in between crushes on Tony Blair.
Oh, it's horrible. Hello, Marcus. By the way, hello.
Oh, D, it's wonderful to hear from you again, my friend. How are you, sir?
I'm reasonably well, and hello, new friend who I don't know, and I can't see because I don't have reading glasses and I can't see my tiny little phone screen.
But here's a picture of a frog, D, so he's a friend.
A frog friend, yeah.
How's it going?
He needs glasses. That's when he says he's old. You know, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have my reading glasses.
Oh man.
Oh, that's how you know you've aged. Is when the reading glasses are a requirement.
Yeah.
I've actually heard two things just recently because I was having a conversation with a friend, actually a guy I train with at the gym, and it's like there are two parameters by which a man knows he's no longer young. Is that people who are older than him stop referring to him as a young man, and then the second thing is when he gets up off a chair, he starts doing like they groan when like your bones crack. It's just like you're no longer a young man. It's like
exactly. I do that when I do that when I move my body in any way.
Is that the Greta Thunberg plushie?
Oh
no,
no,
it's the Semitic plushie.
With the
oh,
chud
is
on
it?
it.
No, it's the Chud. It's the Chud D. It's the Chud D octopus.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, it's one of those autism octopuses. Yes.
I love how they like made that connection. That was crazy. That's like one of the most crazy like propaganda things I've ever seen in my life.
I didn't even know about it, for goodness sake. I was like, what the hell? What's with the octopus? You know?
It was like
I've always associated the octopus with like antitrust. Like it was for trust busting. Standard Oil has tentacles everywhere. Like I never.
And then
with
AA
international jury.
I never associated it with the latter. I always assumed it was like John D. Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and stuff. It was. It has a much different context in America.
And then also AA did that display at Traditional Brewing Group like last year. It's like, oh, that's actually quite clever to use the octopus to describe all the different facets of the regime. And then like next minute, it's like, oh, do you realize that's an anti-Semitic canard? It's like, what?
Yeah, I was like, that's news.
I love how AA snuck that though in his model as opposed to the cathedral.
He wanted an alternative.
Yeah.
But no,
I still don't understand the difference though between AA's model and Yarvin's. I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
One of them is browner than the other. I don't know.
Miss G's like, I would, it's probably no difference, but
Well, yeah, gotta have a take in there.
yeah.
But no, it was one of these days, Geo, we should probably just to kill time play GeoGuessr because Mr. D hosts a very we were watching movies together on a StreamYard's studio room. We didn't record it, but then afterwards we started playing GeoGuessr with Panama Hat and Chris Gard, and it was Semiagog and I playing GeoGuessr, and we were just like autistically trying to find out which part of like the American like Midwest or heartland this like little highway was on, and. It was a lot of fun, and it was just laughter from all four of us. And I was like, "This would be a fun thing to do."
You should do that, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
why did I miss it? It's so awful because my internet connection crapped out, and then I'm just like, I am too tired. I've got to go to bed. So I missed the geoguessing. I missed it.
Well, I might do it on stream one of these days. It was a lot of fun.
Geoguessing, it sounds very cursed.
Yeah, geoguessing. It does sound cursed. Find out which girl it is.
Geoguessing, yeah. That's like the guy that locates like from photos.
Yeah.
But
not everyone's that autistic about geography and maps and Google Earth Street
View. You've got to be very careful when you post those pictures of your back garden or whatever.
Oh, I like doing the ones where I have like the backyard photo and then it's the mug and it's like if you had your morning coffee anon, it's my subtle crappy way of posting merch. But it happens.
I like it. I although I still curse you because every time I see that, I still think of that. Do I need it?
The Jack Stauber pop rock. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah,
I haven't posted that in forever. I need to do more.
Yeah, you need
to advertising. Because
like a little Apu in it, isn't that?
You can do the like super aggressive, violent, Mystery Grove style, like kind of like advertising where you're gonna like kill somebody if they don't subscribe. Whereas I don't know, I think the mimetic way of doing it's also just as good. But who knows? I'll have to figure it out.
I just realized I'm on a stream with 2 meds, 2 Italianos.
Cursed D and colonial meds, mind you.
Yeah,
colonial meds.
Colonial.
Wait, I gotta take a phone call, so I gotta drop off, gentlemen.
No problem. We're almost done here.
I didn't get a chance to, but happy birthday, Gio, by the way, because we got straight to Eagle talk, so I didn't get a chance to.
All right, see you, boys.
God bless, mate, and happy and Merry Christmas, eh?
And Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Ciao, Gio.
Well, I'm gonna probably just wrap it up here. It's been almost 3 hours, so it's like a Digital Archipelago episode. Y'all got an extra one with plenty of guests and a fun time. Mr. D, I'm glad that you could come on though at the last minute here. But I'll update the description in a little bit so I can include everyone's links to those who joined, including yours, Mr. D. And
Prudy's kinder than AA. It's just like, holy shit, end the stream. Marcus is waking up. When I heard that, I pissed myself laughing. That was so funny.
I know. That was very funny.
The Christmas party stream. Yeah. No.
Yeah. But no, thanks, Prud. Wonderful as always.
No, it's always good to chat with you. I know that we just spoke yesterday on the other stream that I did just yesterday on the ongoing.
Well, it was my morning. I've streamed with you twice on the same day.
Look at that! Yeah. See, it was a good time.
There you go.
Maven Politics sent me a message, and he was just like, just finished your latest stream. I have to say, excellent work. And I was just like, thank you. As AA says, it means so much. So, it means so much.
But you gotta be more terse, Prue. It's like it means so much.
Yeah, I don't have that in me. I have that American natural salesman in me, where like. We were shilling the U.S. conference last summer, and it was just like four American guys just on their back to back saying like, if you buy the ticket right now, not only can you meet us in person, but listen to these greats. And I was just like, if I didn't have scruples 100 years ago, I would be an amazing snake oil salesman.
I can imagine.
It's unfortunate that nowadays in the United States, sales jobs are just you're working for peanuts and
and McCorp. You're not selling like the corner store apocryphas, what do you call it, like the chloroform formula, with
yeah, right. Like I'm not selling you Coca-Cola with the actual cocaine in it. It's like, would you like your slop, sir? It's terrible. But
no local apothecaries anymore. Sad days.
In fact, one of those like fake adverts that I did on UO, I believe was the inspiration was that I was going through an old magazine from like the late 19th century, a British magazine. It was chock full of those sort of adverts, and there's a product called Homocea, which I subsequently learned it was like a big deal, and it was absolutely one of those completely useless tonics that was actually slightly harmful. But yeah, that was the first bit of that fake shilling was reading those old sham tonic adverts. So
see, like, I guess that was true, like the whole crypto stuff, or like the NFT Bored Ape thing. Like, could you imagine the energy of like an 1870s like snake oil salesman with like in the NFT craze? Like, it's just the mid-Atlantic accent telling you how great it is to own a picture that's all yours that anyone can copy and paste. Like, I don't know. See, there's still room for great sales pitches out there. Like, you're not going to be Don Draper, but you're going to sell some shit. I'll tell you what. And the possibilities are endless. I think
you just got to work in tech, Brood.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know how much I want to sell my soul though.
Yeah, well, so this is the thing, right? Like, and I agree that it's like bad leadership, right? Our whole society, like, we look at like all the visible leaders in politics and in business, and we think, yeah, most of these guys are kind of corrupt and evil and not really like providing real value. But there definitely are parts of society that are still doing this, and they're doing it well. And I think like it's also good to kind of touch on that kind of white pill aspect of it, right? It's like, as much as everything is kind of like fake and gay in a lot of ways, it's like there's still some good, and I think you can find your way to it. I think like a lot of tech companies are building some interesting stuff. They're really trying to like replace old and legacy systems, and I've seen like there's definitely good like sales roles out there where you're actually selling people like software they need, or you're selling them like technology that's going to make their life better. It's just it's only like a small part, but it's like it's the important part, So
yeah, I mean, like in real life, I sell a warm fuzzy. I work in the nonprofit sector, so like talking to people about selling the feel good. Although it's really strange because like the way that nonprofits have been like pitching things, they talk about millennials so much, which is so funny because most millennials are in their like late 30s or mid 30s, getting into their early 40s. And it's just like, but the millennials, they want that experience. They want to be part of something. They want to say like they've done something that makes them feel good about themselves. And it's just like, they don't ever talk about Gen X. They don't ever talk about Gen Z or Gen Alpha. But it's particularly interesting that it's no longer we're providing a charity service to help others. I have to now cater to the what's in it for me experiential aspect of it. It's very interesting because, that charity used to be something, and especially in a more, when we were far more Christian in our worldview, that that was something that you did in secret, or that was something that you were compelled to do, to love thy neighbor as thyself, and to do these things in secret, and to not be boastful about it as the Pharisees are. And
humble
now
and quiet, as it were.
Yeah, humble and quiet. It is to be seen, but you're not to boast about it. Whereas nowadays, it's the Mr. Beast style philanthropy where everyone hates it. It's very it's a very interesting inversion.
You soy jack while you selfie and tweet about it,
Yeah.
He soy jacks as he feeds you,
He soy jacks as he digs your wells in Africa.
Well, this is why we need to like God pill people. We need to bring spirituality back, because once you understand that life is inherently it's a test of your soul, right? It's a spiritual experience that you're living that requires that material element, right? Because you can't prove what you believe if you don't have the ability to live in the material. But ultimately God sees everything, right? It's interesting. I'm more recently I'm starting to see this girl, and I think really what changed was like a month or two before, I was like, all right, I'm getting off all the apps. I'm not gonna like mess with women in a negative way. I'm just gonna like have like a really pure intention with that, and I'm not gonna like do anything kind of like, I'm not gonna fuck around with it, right?
Be honorable with your conduct, so you can say with a clear mind that, yes, I'm doing this the right way, right? To yourself and to her, like, yeah, I know what you mean.
Sure. But I also think there's like a God component to this, right? Like, you're putting out the right spiritual energy, and God's like, all right, cool, you're ready. You're doing this the right way. And I think it's the same thing with what Prudential is talking about with charity, right? Is if you're doing charity because you believe in the value that it's going to add to people's lives, and that inherently is what's valuable about that act. It's not about the visibility. But yeah, we do live in a world where people, they don't think of that element, right? They just think purely materialistically, and so they can't see any value for doing charity outside of like the look at me, look how awesome I am, the virtue signaling aspect. It's kind of it's a mindset shift that needs to happen on a fundamental level. I
uninstalled the Twitter app on the weekends, so I don't, like, if I'm tweeting, it's from my desktop computer because I don't want to be on my phone all day. Although I did just get a text from our good friend T.R. Hudson, whose new book, The Perfect and the Wicked, is out now, and yours truly has got a little review of it on blurb on the back cover. But he says, how can you say that there are no snake oil salesmen these days? There are people who have convinced men that they're women. It's the best salesman ever. That's a good point. There are snake oil salesmen. They push hormones. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Take this pill and you'll become the opposite sex.
Could we call them snake oil surgeons? Maybe like.
So there's that too. Yeah, some snakes coming off. That's for sure.
Yes.
Golly. But no, I think that there's a point to that. And I mean, St. Ephrem the Syrian makes an excellent point that, this life is in service to God and to repent and to work towards, the goal for what comes next. And it's a very profound thing to consider that, like this is a very short, transient, contemporary life, and we don't know when we'll pass. And we thank the Lord on high for the customary mercy that we get another day while we're healthy and in good standing. And it's difficult sometimes to comprehend that when this holiday season has been turned into nothing more than a hustle and bustle of last minute stuff. Like, I've been this last week, it's just going to church. I usually will at Walmart, I'll buy soup or whatever and help feed the guys at church who serve and everything like that. And it's so busy, it's so packed, and it's such a bustle, and it's just there's no pause for the recollection of what we're doing. It is that sort of perennial complaint of the hustle and bustle of the day to day, and it's an intense thing to consider in these things. But yeah, there's the seed oil salesman. There you go. That'd be the way to do it. The seed oil salesman. But again, I think the reintroduction to the spiritual life is going to have to be prime for whatever we do, because it's the whole thing that people cite from Warhammer, but it's just like, you are in a war for belief just as much as you are in a material conflict on all these things. And the great filter is here, the great bottleneck is here, but with that bottleneck, belief is required for willpower, and belief is required for strength to carry on and to do what is necessary in your life. And that's a damn important thing to consider as well. But last but not least, Miss Julie Tran sends $25 United States. Thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate that. She says, "Happy birthday, Mr. Prudentialist." Well, thank you very much, and may you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
$25.
I like it how you're trying sort of this I like how your accent disappears when you do that. It's funny.
The Canadian one is hard to interpret, but anyway,
that's true. Well, it's true. And
you got to put some weight behind it. Though. $25.
I was trying to be subdued because it's not my stream, but anyway, that was perfect. That was actually
it's our stream. It's our stream. We're inflicting birthday cheer upon Prudential.
Yes. Yes.
Cindy makes a good point, though, in chat that whoever joins the stream, it is legally your birthday as well. So happy birthday to all of you. May you all be may you all be 28 again and young.
Oh my God!
What I would do to be 28 again?
Exactly.
Dane and I both feel old.
I refuse to believe that you're that old, Marcus.
Oh, it's not that I'm old. It's just I'm broken. Like it's a lifetime of farming and boxing and motor vehicle accidents and
but I actually am old and broken.
Dean's actually old and broken.
Even worse.
I have a few spare parts in me, so I know how that feels.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. Remember, anyone who there it is. There was the very first comment on the stream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I typically don't. Cause most people on Twitter actually don't know what my face looks like because I don't usually stream with my camera on when I do the Twitter stuff. But yeah, this is who I am. This is what I look like. Because I just that's me. That's me. I like it. I can't grow a beard to save my life, but the mustache is all I got going for me. Thank God. But for all of you on who've been here for the hours on end, Mr. Prime, thanks so much for coming on. It means a lot. It was nice to have you here.
Thanks for joining. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks. I joined my own show. It's a pretty good time. But yeah, Marcus, thanks for coming on. Man, this is twice
Pleasure, sir.
today. So
Yes.
yeah, how'd you in the morning?
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say we've been actually overdue. I know a couple of times where we've crossed paths like, oh, we've got to try and catch up and do a stream together. We've done like literally 2 in 24 hours. So you've bookended my day. You've been like, I was having my breakfast coffee with Prudentialist, and now I'm about to go to bed after being with Prudentialist. So wonderful day. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And then last but not least, Big Cover also sends $25. He says, happy birthday to the dynamic duo. Oh, yes, Gio and I do share a birthday. It's been a great birthday. And it's only just started, and then I'll be off later at church this evening. And Mr. D, thank you so much for coming on. It was always a pleasure to speak with you, friend.
No, it's certainly my pleasure to come. Sorry, I missed most of the festivities, but no, I wanted to come and pay my respects to you. A very fine gentleman and a good friend. So happy birthday again.
Well, thank you all so much. So how it'll go for now on, I don't think we'll have the Digital Archipelago next Thursday. Gio will be out of town. So will I. I'm going to be visiting my friends in North Carolina. I will have a video for the New Year pre-recorded. That'll premiere probably on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. We'll see. I'll have my usual Christmas address. So I'll be in my Sunday best, so to speak, all dressed up, talking to you in the woods as I usually do. Giving you my thoughts on that wonderful, wonderful holiday of the incarnation of our Lord. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for the well wishes and the many years, and Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. God bless. Take care and stay prudent, everyone. See you next time.